Friends, happy evening to all of you. In fact, we are gathered for another knowledge dissemination session on an important topic of peer review and new ways of doing the audit because of the COVID effect which we are all facing. With me, Abhishek Murli, Secretary, joining to welcome all the dignitaries. We have a special surprise guest, C. Devraj Reddy, our past president, joining. Our C. Dayanivas Sharma, Central Council member and also chairman of the peer review board. And then our beloved speaker, CA Ganesh Balakrishnan. In fact, when me and Abhishek were discussing somewhere the first week of May, we did speak of Ganesh, but we then thought we'll call him at the appropriate time and on the appropriate topic. But when we spoke to Daya sir of having something on peer review, it just coincided that he also recommended Ganesh sir. And it is for that reason we are having him today with us. And special thanks to CA Devraj Reddy sir who has joined us in addressing all the members. And on this, today if you have seen the news item, there is one item on by Inox where they are not happy with the way the producers have started telecasting it through the OTT, which is through the Netflix or the Amazon. And Producers Guild has also given a reply telling that things are different and today they have to kind of manage. Probably we have also did all the audits, the bank audits remotely. So the norm is going to change going forward. Maybe the Inox and the Producers Guild in different way will affect the audit profession also. We'll have to kind of wait and watch. And they say inspection is good, but introspection is very good. So peer review is a nice concept where you can do a self inspection of yourself so that you don't expose it to outside. So rightfully, when Dayanivas Sharma and me were having a discussion, we thought it will be very appropriate to have a program on peer review so that more members are educated. And very important thing on the timing of 7 p.m., why we chose in the evening than the regular mornings. Everybody is into bank audits. If we keep it during the daytime, there'll be very less people. So we thought having it in the day end will be appropriate. And even people who will miss out at 7 p.m., they can always see the recorded version and get benefited. So I request C. Abhishek Murli to introduce all the three dignitaries, including the speaker, C. Devraj Reddy, C. Dayanivas Sharma, and C. Ganesh.
Thank you very much, Dynamic Chairman, C.A. Dungarchand Jain, for giving us this opportunity to do this program today. As the Chairman rightly said, peer review is a very, very important topic, especially given the developments from the government. We are taking it very seriously of how the auditor's role is going to be. And our Central Council also and our CA Institute have taken it very seriously. We have a new ethical code. In fact, we had a program which was our past president Sunil Talati had addressed us, and we got a very, very positive response from there. So as you can see, steps are being taken from both the government side and our own institute side to ensure that certain quality is maintained. And this peer review is a very, very integral part of that, and where our own members evaluate the competence, the quality, the independence, and integrity of the audits that are being done. And for this session, we have with us three very, very important persons joining us. Our past president, C.A. Devraj Reddy, who played a very, very key role as a president of our CA Institute and the ICAI at the helm of affairs, because he is from Hyderabad. He is joining us today. We also have C.A. Balakrishnan, who's our Ganesh Balakrishnan, who is our speaker for the day and star speaker for the day. And of course, we have the peer review committee chairman, current Central Council member, our own CA Dayanivas Sharma sir. So I will now formally introduce them one by one, though each of them specifically requested not to be introduced. They did not share profiles. We have been trying difficultly to get some profiles. So a very, very brief introduction so that straight away we can go into the program. I'll start with our Central Council member, CA Dayanivas Sharma. He is currently the chairman of the peer review board and convener of the member and student services directorate. He played a very key role in fact, the SSP portal and, transforming the way we are operating as members and communicating with our ICA as well. He is a Central Council member from Hyderabad. And in fact, it goes without saying, his father is a doyen in profession and a former Central Council member himself. I welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us an address from the peer review board as a peer review board chairman. I would next like to introduce our past president, C.A. Devraj Reddy. Though sir has also not given us his profile, he is a person who needs no introduction, and everyone who is watching will know him. He is, of course, very famous from our southern region, from Hyderabad, past chairman, and played a very key roles across several years in our institute, both at the SIRC level and then later on at the ICI level. In fact, sir, today we invited him, and he has graciously taken time out of his busy schedule to join us today and give a special address on this very important topic of the peer review board. I next come to CA Ganesh Balakrishnan. He is another person who's a pillar of support and strength for our CA Institute. We always reach out to him on various topics. His technical competence combined with the beautiful art of how he delivers his lectures has made him various fans across our region. In fact, for our regional conference also, we regularly invite him, and he's a person who's been a huge pillar of support. I repeatedly say that because even when my father was a central council member, he used to be close to CA Ganesh sir and regularly invite him. So over a period of time, he has always extended his support. And when we asked him for his profile, he said, "You just introduced me as a partner of a multinational firm with over 28 years of experience." But I request him to please join us today and give, as usual, spellbinding lecture. Thank you so much, CA Ganesh sir, for joining us today. Over to you, Chairman, to take over the agenda.
May I request CA Devraj Reddy sir to give a prelude to the program, and then we go to Dayanivas sir.
Thank you, DC Jain. My dear friend, Speaker Ganesh, and my close associate, my guru's son, Dayanivas Sharma, and Secretary Abhishek, dear viewers, I think mainly senior members, young members, maybe here and there students also might have joined. For all of you, very good evening to all of you. And one thing I want to say, I don't want to waste much time of all the viewers. DC Jain as the chairman of Southern Region is doing wonderful job. In spite of hurdles of Corona, different programs through various committees motivating all his regional council members across the region is conducting. And at the same time, they have taken the support of various committees of the ICA at Delhi level, and they're conducting the program so that they will get quality input, and the members can also have good information what is happening at the council level. This is required at each regional level. For this, I especially congratulate DC Jain for motivating all his regional council members to interact with central council and do the things. So the members are getting what is happening at the Delhi level. Friends, now an era has come, Corona before, Corona after. So this Corona before, Corona after, now more human touch, human value you have to consider. Say a businessman, see there are certain laws, certain acts, so much are there. All this can be implemented word to word. Or is it possible or not? So you have to go beyond the law. See what is happening, how it is going, we have to see. In this, if you are not touching, if you go only on print media, on printing of the sections, it is not. What is the motive of the section? How it is there? At this scenario, how we can implement? See, peer review is there. Peer review, I was also chairman a few years back. So I seen such a way across the country, all members are doing their best. But there are own limitations, staff, technology. Maybe we can say some companies where they established big firms, they may having all infrastructure. Small and medium firms are not having that facilities. But still we have to raise ethical value standard-wise. Otherwise, if this peer review is not properly given respect, and if you are not taking proper peer review, central government or regulators may appoint some other overriding authority to see us. See, because some other person, some other executive or civil servants, IAS officers are ready to grab any opportunity. If they come to our review our works, we will be in trouble. They cannot understand what is the audit, what is the expectation from the client with our books. They may not be doing. That's why peer review has to be respected by every member. Here and there, when I go across the country, some members say, why are peer reviews, sir? The person peer review is coming, whether he can justify within 1 week what is happened. Not like that. See, whether you are having proper system, whether things are doing well in your office, all starting like ISO, it is peer review is also a model where it is required. Internationally, it is accepted procedure for institute recognition of our audit in anywhere in the world also. That's why peer review has to be given highest respect whenever a peer review is come. Another thing I request, maybe Dayanivas give more information. As a chairman is having a lot of inputs. We are having less peer reviewers also. That he will come into picture. But as past president, and I thought of giving a special only my session, not going to different other areas. In this peer review, I request all the members, please kindly take yourself, see that your firm is peer reviewed. Many of the people, when a special audit has come, some listed company audit or some stock issues are coming, then only you are rushing for peer review. That is very 100% wrong. You try to have peer review every firm immediately if it is not there. Every 3 years it has to be done. I think chairman is reaching many places, many times. Even president, many of his newsletters are mentioning various presidents. So still many firms are not peer reviewed. Even 1 week back also I got, sir, I had a listed company at having a peer review, sir, I want early to complete. Then I said, you contact the Nivas, now the local person is there, we have to go. That's why I'm bringing the awareness to the members. Please kindly see that peer review done by every of you, your firms. Next, there are shortage of peer reviewers also. Please kindly see that if you become a peer reviewer, additional income also is there. I think as a chairman, Daya may show more light in this angle. Next, coming to as an audit portion, we are going to the lot of opportunities. Internationally, the way the COVID has happened, people lost confidence on China. Many manufacturing activities, many financial opportunities are going to be India. Financial opportunities, more investment opportunities are coming to India. In this scenario, so investments are going. Recently, our Prime Minister Modi ji, through Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, 20 lakh crores these investments funds moving various, maybe different political parties are criticizing different way, but as a chartered accountant, whatever criticism is there, for us this 20 lakhs cost funds are moving different channels in the business community or assessees, again in turn back to the investment. So the opportunities for CS are more. Here our opportunities not only as a professional fees, whether these funds are properly utilized in various places, we should be honest and ethical standards we have to improve and see our best how we can help the economy in this hour. So it is not the fees, it is not an opportunity of professional. How we are going to help the nation as a citizen? First, we are a responsible citizen. So that's why my sincere request, all the members, raise to the expectation of the society, see that trust which is imposed or trust which is expected by the regulators, public, we should raise. And this public, not only India, internationally, now the people are going to invest here. All companies are worldwide are coming. So the investment people, whoever is there, they should see that Indian sea is the best. Already we are having Indian IT people, IT information technology people are the best, they are saying. Even Globe, you say many IT people are the higher side. Same way, now as a chartered accountants, we are having an opportunity to show our mettle, show our ethics, to show our standards. We have to raise. Already we know we can work 24 into 7, even 365 days. So that is having an asset. Second, our English communication, our hard work, our sincerity is there. Here at this hour, to raise our opportunity still better, my sincere request, please update your professional skills. Particularly, the audit has become more technology. At the same time, many accounting standards, I think Ganesh will throw light. Sometimes what I think generally I always say, Ganesh, you should be a little bit sympathetic for small and medium firms. We are doing the small audits because there sometimes we may be failing to follow certain standards or certain principles. But at the same time, you try to advise the client, see that also raised to that expectation. If you do, definitely institute is doing better. At the same time, always I used to preach my professional friends, don't deviate to other business activities. Now many investments has come, 20 lakhs cost money is there. Don't jump yourself to go to business. Let us do our job as a profession. Always I quote one, because sun rises east, sun sets at west. Same way, always one sloka is I'm having. Lord Krishna, which he says, Sreyan Sadarmo Gunaha, Sadarma Nidhanam Sreya, Paradharma Bhayava. The line which you have chosen, whatever difficult, dark, don't leave it, pursue. In this hour of technology change, issues of corona, we feel it is a difficulty situation. If you feel it is a difficulty situation, yes, difficulty for society. At the same time, you can have an opportunity, you can grab an opportunity to show different helps to the society and business people, industry people. That's why my sincere request here, be bold yourself, take the different type of activities, try to advise your clients also, not only in audit wise, investment wise, what is opportunity available. Go through all the plans which Nirmala Sitharaman is given. Let us see with different clients of us where it is suitable. Give them information, do as investment advisor, see that they will be helpful, try to contact, or sometimes is there to interact different programs, not only SIRC. We are having 5 regions. NIRC, WRC, Eastern Region Center. There are many programs are there, wherever investments are there. Take more than that, take the speakers. Now Ganesh is there. You take. And I request all the members, wherever issues are there, kindly contact your central council members. AP, Telangana, or Southern region, we are having 6 council members. Try to contact your central council member. There are solutions, many solutions are there. And I hope, I don't want to take much time, Ganesh is a person who is having a vast knowledge of across the world, different companies exposure. Definitely this helps you to have, and I request this 1.5 hour or 1 hour, because 30 minutes DCJ we are maybe taking, chairman myself, but another 1.5 hour speaker time, if you utilize effectively and take the points, it may help you a lot in your quality of audit delivering. It is not only your quality of it is service to the nation, not nation, it is to the world, humankind. Now world has become a small village, and Corona has made still small. So that's why there is a most important this program which quality is required, which is going to get respected by the CS and institute also. My special thanks for Ganesh and Dayanivas, who as the chairman of the peer review. It is hour of need for institute to show its mettle. How as a chairman he reaches across the 29 states, and how many people reviewers he can raise, and all the firms you should have a target to see that peer reviewed, small or big, you have to see that peer reviewed, and make more peer reviews, reason wise meetings also, so that interaction will be better. And Abhishek, now budding leader in the state, in the region, I want your more involvement in the thing, and my special congratulations and thanks once again DC Jain. The way is going, I will ask you to continue. Maybe after Corona over, maybe September, I request you to move across the region so that you get more information how serious are expecting past elected members' experience. We can have it. With this, I extend my sincere greetings to all the viewers, and I hope majority of you who are not in cooling period, you have completed your audit. And please be comfortable. Audit also, when you are there, Corona, lockdown limitations are there. There are a lot of liberations are there. Sitting from your nearest branch, you are conducting the audits, and most of the times it's become more technology thing. I think audit also become very comfortable. Please complete your audits very comfortably and don't compromise anywhere. If any small problems, kindly interact with the central auditors. Every bank is having a central auditor. Try to discuss with him your issue. Don't harass the manager, or at the same time you skip also. Interact with the central auditor. What is the view? How their law has to be implemented? Because sometimes you may be failing to read the RBI circulars or bank internal circulars. A clash comes between you and manager. Simply is not the way to write memorandum of charges. Please see that, discuss with central auditors, and see that audit profession image also not eroded. With this, I wish all the best to the viewers. My special congratulations once again to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Devraj Reddy sir. Thank you so much. In fact, it's only a pure coincidence that all the 3 guests are from Hyderabad, because Devraj Reddy sir is coming in capacity of past president, Dayanivas is the peer review board chairman, and Ganesh we thought to have him anyway for a session. So it's a mere coincidence. Before I may request Dayanivas to speak, since he may not be available in the end, there are 2 questions which have come, which I would like to flash it, which you may please cover in your speech. One is somebody is asking, can we expect peer reviewer training by online, especially for existing reviewer required to undergo training? And no, not this one. Another one is, my last peer review as a peer reviewer was about 3 years back. I don't know what is the present status as a peer reviewer. I suggest there should be a feedback mechanism to the peer reviewers. So in your speech, you can cover these 2 so that people will be benefited who are viewing. There, sir. Screen is yours, sir.
Respected chairman of the entire region, the first person of the region, DC Jain, it's always been a pleasure to interact with you always, and it is again a pleasure that within the shortest time you ensured that this program go live. And today happens to be my elder brother's marriage anniversary, and everyone is celebrating outside, but I am sitting here with you all people. That is what the dedication is required as a leader when we opt to be in the institute. And Devraj Reddy sir, namaste to you. Thankfully, your love and affection for my father has always been a great, and you have always been a good guide for me also to work around what I am doing at the council level, and that guidance is at most important. And more importantly, you're always available at a single call whenever it is required. Ganesh bhai, as usual, you are always a brother, and more importantly, the kind of knowledge you disseminate, I think, among the members is of a different nature. And more importantly, I have seen your participation, which was very positive when we were discussing on the consultation paper in Hyderabad branch, and the way you were talking in favor of, rather, I'll put it, because you understood the requirements which is there for the SMP practice. I think that knowledge, if just condense it to a particular level and start sharing, there will be a huge amount of contribution which will be made to the profession as such. And you are always doing that, and you have always been a guide, and you have been a follower of one gentleman who is everyone would love to respect him, is Mr. PR Ramesh, who has always been available for the institute at a single call. I have personally witnessed so many times that he directly flew from a particular location to come deliver and go back. So this is what do you say, the quality which you also carry. And Abhishek, undoubtedly, as Devraj Reddy sir has stated, that you are a new growing professional in our community as such, and your father has been one of the most loving person. No one can forget him at any given point in time, and my entire family remembers him all throughout the interactions what we had. So, and friends, particularly, I'm really delighted that this is my first session, which I'm going to, do an opening remarks. Though Guntur branch asked me to do it, but I was more keen that before I start any other program, I should start the peer review program from SIRC as such. Friends, it is high time that the quality of the profession is being not questioned. It is actually put to some kind of test, and the kind of demonstration which we need to do now can be understood by the kind of expectation which is there by the regulators, by the governments, by the stakeholders, and the peers who are there around. Example, let us take, if there is one mistake happening, there is a name of chartered accountant and we all start discussing it. So something which we need to really do is, where our chartered accountants have demonstrated every time that they have done a good job, but the only problem which we have been finding is that the documentation requirement which is there, that has been missing somewhere, which could actually demonstrate the quality of work our chartered accountants have done. This is what we have to learn from Ganesh, where the kind of documentation they are doing, the kind of information they gather, the kind of confidence with which we actually move forward is impeccable. Now, let me go to the concept of peer review. I personally feel, at one stage we all have to feel and understand one thing, is that having a peer review certificate means you are an A-rated firm. If we start thinking from that line, then you will understand the kind of importance the peer review and the necessity of the peer review is. Please understand, the basic definition of peer review is very simple. I'm unable to share my presentation on the screen because of some technical issue. It is an evaluation of scientific, academic, or professional work by others working in the same field. It is not policing. Please understand, it is sharing of knowledge. When I come as a peer reviewer and would like to see a firm which is maintaining certain documentation standard, if it is little weak, we understand how we can develop in our own firm and we can recommend. But whereas when we go to a larger firm to do a peer review, right, it is basically you learn certain more things when it is required. Example, DC, the chairman of SIRC in his individual capacity has been appointed to do a peer review of Deloitte's. Just imagine the kind of knowledge which he is going to gain when he is going to review the documentation. Yes, it is a confidentiality which is very important that need to be maintained. But the kind of knowledge you gain while you are interacting with your members, with your partners of a firm, which is actually set up some good quality standards, is something which we need to understand. Please understand, the most important part of our entire peer review or our profession who is into practice, SQC1, Standard on Quality Control 1, is the most important document. And if we have not read it, honestly, I can tell you is a biggest failure it starts with. Without knowing SQC1, it is very difficult that we need to implement the entire process, because it talks about internal quality of the firm. It is internal quality of the firm. When you're talking about a peer review to be done, the peer review assessment is primarily from the standards which you are maintaining within an organization. Why do you have to do that assessment? Please understand, because you are signing certain documents in a quasi-judicial authority. I am using the word quasi-judicial authority. That means the kind of due care and diligence you need to take while performing a particular assessment or an assignment, including a certification, basic certification work. If you actually see, when we talk about a certification, I don't want to elaborate, but all of us know, the fact is the kind of charge we are doing, that we are thinking it is not a great service. But just imagine, because of a chartered accountant certificate, there is a huge amount of outward of fund which can happen, and that might also turn out to be money laundering. So that is something which we need to understand. So now what is it required? How do I do it? What is the quality parameters which I need to look into? What is the documentation I should look into? That is something which is very important. And SQC1 talks about a review which need to be done within the organization. It is very important for all of us. Please understand, any person can think, what is the reward for me? The reward is, if I am distinguished among so many people, holding a peer review certificate is the reward I am going to have. Primarily, that certificate, you ask Ganesh bhai, he'll categorically tell if the firm is getting reviewed by PCAOB. In the previous discussion also, I had one discussion. PCAOB, even one single review which has come out clean, the audit firm takes pride in making that statement that, my firm has come out of this particular peer review, without any difficulties. So similarly, we need to understand, because in India, we do not have rating mechanism of the firm. What we need to do is, our rating mechanism has to depend on the quality of audit firms which we are doing. As Devraj Reddy sir has specifically talked about the kind of investment which is going to come into India in next 2 years, you and I can't even imagine. If that investing company would like to appoint you as a consultant for doing a basic accounting job also, you should have on your profile that you are a peer-reviewed firm. That credit rating itself will be a biggest credit rating for your organization. So please understand, you have to clearly understand the importance. Now let me take you to one point, which is what is the rationale behind doing a peer review. To strengthen public confidence in financial reporting and effectiveness audit process, to increase the basis of reliance placed by users on financial statements for economic decision making, to ensure better quality and consistency in audit services across section of audit firms. At the firm level, to maintain and enhance quality of assurance services, to provide guidance to the members to improve their performance, to ensure adherence to the various statutory and other regulatory requirements. Now, when you talk about so many things, it includes today DCMM, Digital Competency Maturity Model, which is version 2, which is we are going to come out with a national and international webinar on 20th of this month. How your documentations have to be, how your internal processes have to be effectively done, that is going to be discussed on a very qualitative manner. Please understand, peer review mechanism is not policing. It is holding hands to grow. Please understand, it is holding hands to grow. Let us share among ourselves and take things forward, which is going to ultimately enhance the quality of audit firms. Even Ganesh bhai will agree, in the consultation paper, they talked about how do you do the assessment of the small and medium practice firms. Do we have any mechanism? Yes, we do have mechanism. Since 2002, we are having this mechanism, which no one otherwise have. And the kind of reviews which are being done, they are being focused, and beautiful things are there. I'll just share with you furthermore. We have, for your, I'll just share with you what is peer review all about. Peer review has, please understand certain publications which are there. The publications are of 5 types. One is the statement of peer review, which talks about the entire peer review gamut. Number 2 is handbook on advisories of practice unit. Number 3 is handbook on advisories of peer reviewer. 4 is FAQs which are being developed by board, and 5 is peer review manual. And you all will be happy to know, and particularly Devraj sir will be very happy to know, he was the past chairman of the peer review board. Sir, we have taken up a step ahead to revise the peer review statement after 2002 now. So there are a lot of modifications which are coming up at the peer review level in the entire mechanism. And more importantly, when you talk about in the peer review, we have 4 kind of practice unit. The one is practice unit, another is peer reviewer. Practice units are those which are audit firms. We have L1, L2, L3 and newly established practice units. Primarily, why do we want to give that support to newly established practice unit is if that firm, if a chartered accountant comes out of a firm which is a very large, which has an opportunity to get appointed as a statutory auditor of a listed company or a public interest entity, he should have peer review certificate, which is a requirement of L1 entity. So for that purposes, so that youngsters do not lose out, we have created this 4th option for our members. Apart from that, all the firms which Ganesh Bhai is going to take you through the entire peer review process which is there. I'll not touch upon those things because it is going to impact the discussion otherwise also. So practice unit 1, I'll just tell you one thing. Central statutory audit of a public sector undertaking, private sector bank, foreign banks, cooperative banks and public sector institutions requires to have a peer review certificate. If those people are not having a peer review certificate, they cannot be appointed as a statutory auditor, central statutory auditor of that particular institution, including NBFCs. When you're talking about cooperative banks, smaller firms which are there, like SEBI is insisting, C&AG is insisting, RBI is insisting. Tomorrow, when you do a corporate audit, cooperative society audits, it will also insist. There are so many things which are there. Audit of insurance companies, multiple list is there, which I request Ganesh Bhai to take you through. But in L2 entities, you will be surprised. We are lucky. We are lucky that it has not been triggered. I am putting it very straight, clear. Tomorrow you should not come and blame the institute. Today I am telling you openly on this forum that in L2 entities, practice unit which has undertaken any under-mentioned assurance services in the period under review, what it has, statutory internal concurrent system, tax audit and or department review of a branch, office of a public sector or a private sector or a foreign branch, including insurance companies and cooperative societies. That means, just imagine, including a branch statutory audit, you should be holding a peer review certificate. This is the importance of it. Today, no one is asking, so we are safe. But tomorrow, if anyone is going to ask, just imagine your name will be stuck from the entire list of branch statutory audit. Are we getting ready for that? Or we want to be ready for facing that kind of situation is a question which is there before you all people. Today, in the peer review process, most of the time, it has become more of a ritual kind of thing. If we develop an attitude to go and get this peer review effectively done, there is no punishment for this. You are going to get a comment saying that this is what it is. If you qualitatively do that process, I think it is just going to strengthen the intrinsic value of your firm is going to grow. Today, you are going to develop in a manner where tomorrow, if an article is gone, where is the file? You don't even know. If you have to go and search in the system, we don't even know. Whether that was a software which was used old, new, current, where it is, we don't even know. God forbid there is a disciplinary action coming. From where are we going to get the documents? If our processes are right and our documentation standards are qualitatively taken care, any person, we should not be human dependent, we should be process dependent. That is something which talks in this particular peer review entirely. Now, friends, apart from that, there are, the periodicity of the peer review is also being talked about, L1, L2 and L3. the validity of the peer review certificate, eligibility of the peer reviewer. It is very beautifully drafted. Be a member at least for 10 years in practice. You can be actually a peer reviewer. Now we are defining the definition, though we are adding more people into it. Unfortunately, the number of peer reviewers we have is very, very less. And the less also has one more problem, that people don't take up peer reviews. So the senior most members, I am personally requesting that you please ensure that the quality of the profession can only grow if you people come and support the youngsters or the mid-sized firms, so that effectively things can move in a good direction. Apart from that, the documentation requirement and all those things which Ganesh Bhai is going to talk about. And most important part is when you talk about the review mechanism which C&AG, our MCA is going to look into, is going to be an eye-opener for all of us. We have implemented UDIN, which has actually become a biggest support in the entire system. Though the weakness of peer review, I can put it, but the strength of UDIN has given that kind of comeback in a form where the credibility of the profession has been established, because some people were wrongly misusing our certificates. Though he was not a chartered accountant, Ganesh Bhai ka naam bahut pasand aaya, to Ganesh Bhai ka naam aur membership lag gaya, thappa lagaya, certificate de diya, and who's been blamed is only a chartered accountant. And what is institute doing? Similarly, with regards to SSP, you will be surprised, we are able to capture the entire correct data of our members. We were not knowing what was. Now just wait for a couple of days. We are integrating SSP and UDIN. Automatically, the quality again is going to further improve because they were talking on an independent note. That has again been taken care of. Finally, friends, I can only tell you one thing. Together we can grow. Let's make sharing a growing story of profession is something which I would like to share with you all people, because ultimately, if you talk about a profession, we do not have any commodity. The commodity is knowledge, which is there in our brains. And if we are able to put forward, don't sell, barter it. We have a concept of barter system in our ancient times. Let us start bartering our knowledge. Automatically, the kind of quality which we are going to see in our profession is going to be unimaginable. And it is time today where we hold hands together. And I assure you, in the capacity of the chairman of peer review board, that the trainings which we are going to start, because there is a amount of change which is coming into the peer review statement, because of which I am not able to do Devraj Reddy sir. But very soon we are going to start the sessions where we are going to have practical training on how the filing and documentation need to be maintained in line with the peer review board. Let us be ready now for the 2022-23, when the entire investments are going to come from the globe. We should have strong shoulders to shoulder that kind of responsibility of our client and demonstrate that, qualitatively we are ahead. When we are talking about second largest accounting profession body in the world, let us showcase in quality we are number one. Let's hold together, let's work together, let us share together to make it big and brighter. And DC, you have done a great job all throughout. I'm really thankful to you for inviting me, and who better person than can be there to have as a guest apart from Devraj Reddy sir, who's been a big guiding force for all of us. Today also he calls me up, he says me, there you are going somewhere wrong, kindly set this thing right, this is what it is, this is how it is. And Ganesh Bhai, we look forward for your enriching session. I promise I'll put the video on off, but I'm going to listen to the entire session as promised, and look forward for a great session from your end. Thank you very much.
Daya sir, thank you. If you can just answer those questions too before.
That answer. Video
what is the can you put the questions, DC?
I'll do that. I'll do that. Yeah. Can we expect the peer reviewer training online?
I think you heard me right in the last, that we are changing the peer review statement. And I assure one thing, we have taken out the list of all the peer reviewers. We are sending again to those peer reviewers a mail for expression of interest to continue as a peer reviewer. Once they do it, we are going to hold an exclusive session, and don't be surprised, we are coming out with the examination to be empaneled as a peer reviewer.
There's one more that there's nothing. I think that your query has answered this also, I think.
Yes, my last peer review as a peer reviewer was about 3 years back. Sarji, I can only tell you we are now craving for good peer reviewers, and we are categorizing all the peer reviewers also into L1, L2, L3 entities, and we are going to have interesting sessions going forward. And don't worry, with our initiatives, I think the target for a peer review board is that every firm should get themselves peer reviewed within a period of 2 years. That is our target, and we'll ensure that, rather than doing a policing, an assurance is being given by the chairman of the peer review board now that it will be a growth story rather than a questioning story. That be rest assured.
Yeah, thank you, Dhanivas sir. In fact, we have been talking for quite long to have some program, and it's good it fructified in a very short period of time, actually. And as rightfully told by you, peer review is not policing, but an aid for the profession to grow. So let's kind of take it in the right way. So we request CA Ganesh Balakrishnan to take us through the peer review and the new ways of doing the audit for us. Please.
Just 1 second, Ganesh bhai, if you don't mind. DC, disciplinary is a punishment process. FRRB is prior to punishment. QRB is again a different thing. But PRB is something hum pyar karte hain, that's it. We want to grow together.
Yeah, Ganesh sir, screen is all yours, sir, please.
All right, so you're able to, all right, thank you very much. I think I was eagerly waiting also to hear from there. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. Are you able to see my presentation? DC, you're able to see my presentation?
Yeah, very much, sir.
All right. So thank you very much, Daya. Thank you, DC, and everyone on the call. And I think when DC addressed that everyone is from Hyderabad, I think we are all global now. There is no location, nothing. So I suppose we all start afresh. Pyar bari baatein to sahi hai, but peer review has its own importance and what is the requirement. I think is more driven by that to get a bank audits or a listed company audits, you required this peer review. I think once they are said under this chairmanship is going to redefine what a peer review should be, I think that's how we need to look at it. Very good evening to everyone. I'm sure everyone is doing safe. I think we are all in tough times, and I'll also be touching about two aspects on today's presentation. One is on the peer review process, and also I'm going to talk to you about the new way of doing audit. I think I had received couple of comments saying that we want to hear from you the new ways of doing audit. I think the first way to deliver is that the way we are communicating today, the way it's being presented through an online medium, I think that's going to be the new way of life. So let's be prepared on that. Number two, very important for all of us, is to understand, embrace technology. I think technology is here to stay. I think this is a very critical aspect for every one of us to be a part of this journey. There would be some element of duplications which I would have spoken about, or DC would have talked about, or Devraj Reddy would have talked about. But nevertheless, let me take you through the journey of the peer review from when it started, what has been the objective of a peer review, what is the present scenario of the peer review systems. And I did see in the chat box, as somebody said, we have nominated himself, or actually would say that he has empaneled with the peer review board, has not received even a single engagement. I think that is the one process which I will talk about, and which I will ask Daya to respond at the end of the session. Is definitely, even I'm as a part of the empanel with the peer review, but I've never got a single assignment. So we will talk about that and what is the need to change. I think that's very important. There did touch upon a couple of things of the advisories that did touch upon the peer review manuals. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the obligations of the practice unit. We'll talk about the limitations of the peer review. We'll talk about the additions and all of this. So there is also an illustrative time period that we talk about, we will touch upon. So As far as the peer review process is concerned, I will be little speed in terms of my delivery because I have to cover the other aspect of it, which is much more demanding. But nevertheless, I will make sure that the important aspects of the peer review will be covered as a part of the process. Just to give an overview, which has been touched upon even by Daya, is that the peer review itself means that somebody who is going to do a re-examination, just to give you from a perspective of whether whatever is required to be conducted by a professional has actually been carried out. So I think this is mainly to ensure that the practicing unit has got the quality standards that has been followed. I think peer reviews means is just not that you give names of the peer reviewers, select somebody, go and fill up the checklist, give the documents, and get a peer review certificate. I think the very objective why it was formed in 2002 was to assist the professional services firm, to assist the professionals to improve on the quality. I think somewhere down the line, because of the necessity under the 2010, when the SEBI said that every chartered account firm which wants to be appointed as an auditor of a listed company needs to have the peer review certificates. I think somewhere the objective moved away from an improvement in the quality of of the processes in the services firm to more to receive a certificate so that they become eligible to get an audit. I think we need to revisit. Every professional services firm have to revisit the purpose of a peer review. No longer that you can just get a certificate. Let me share some of this because I'm also empaneled with the quality review board. I also understand what the changes that are coming through NEFRA. I'll touch upon at the latter part of the time when there has been a question what is coming through. I think what is very important now is how do we improve the standards of quality? I think the standards of quality control, SQC1, which they are alluded, I think is very, very significant, and which was been mandatory from 2007 onwards. And majority of the observations, if you see in the quality review conducted by the quality review board, more than 50% of the observations still figures under the standards of quality control, SQC1. So I think there is a need that for all of us as professionals to rise to the occasion. I think as far as the QRB or the peer review board has been concerned, was more internal, not something which was very significant. But when you look at NEFRA, the way they are looking at documentation, the way they're asking for information, the way they're been asking to provide in a particular manner, I think that's going to be much more challenging. I think that is where there has been talking about improvising ourselves, enhancing the standard of the quality of documentation and all of this. I think the need of the hour today, as much as we are embracing the COVID situation, we should also embrace bringing in changes in the manner in which we perform the audit, in the manner in which we conduct our processes within the organization, how we train our people, how do we monitor independence. All of these becomes very, very critical. So the peer review board actually has been established to oversee the peer review processes. I'll touch upon what some of this. This is also the aim has been to enhance the quality, which I talked about. I talked about the SEBI notification of 2010, and this is mandatory for the audit of listed entities. Typically, peer review is basically for attest services, means that is the auditing and verification of financial transactions. All of that which relates to under which is certified. Basically, if you're covering any audit report or a certifications, peer review is essential. You need to comply the technical standards, which includes accounting standards, statement of standard on auditing practices issued by ICI. You need to refer to various guidance notes. You need to look at various informations or guidances or standards issued by either by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or by NEFRA or by RBI or by IRDA, any of those, which becomes very, very critical for you as a professional to issue an audit report or give a true and fair view on a financial statement. Again, the directions for the peer review has been more self-regulatory in nature. That means it is only going to help the professional services firm. I think that is very, very critical part of it. The scope always of the peer review has been basically, if you look at the process that goes, it is basically for a window of 3 completed years, which has been subjected to review. Again, There has been some relaxation because of the COVID environment. There has been a relaxation for a year, which I'll talk about. But the review typically will focus on the compliance of technical standards, the quality of reporting, the office systems and procedures with regard to compliances, the training programs for staff. Again, these training programs are not the training programs conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants for CP purposes. These are the training programs which have to be given to the staff, to the partners, to the people who are working, as the manner in which you will go ahead with accepting an engagement, assessing an engagement risk, arriving at a planning materiality, the threshold. All of these would be required when you look at it. So the training is both internal as well as external. When I talk internal, it's about the processes of the respective offices, the systems, the acceptance, the archival process. How do you maintain record? What sort of documentation, whether it is manual, whether it is in electronic mode, how do you archive? All of these becomes very, very internal. When it talks about external, changes in laws, changes in accounting standards, changing in statutes, changing in anything which impacts the performance of an audit service, professional services firm should be included. The objective has always been there, so I'm not going to again continue on this. If there are any non-compliance to quality control standards, one needs to look at it very, very clearly. So I think the saying has been that to identify if there are any weaknesses and improve on that weaknesses going forward. This is the part which I talked about, the extension of the peer review certificate, which either has been under the process or as applied for it, or it is actually as the certificate has expired. The peer review board did an extension for 1 year, so that whatever has been issued last, that will continue to be there until 2021. And similarly, if you got struck because that it has been in the process and you've not been able to carry out, I think even there has been an extension which has been given. I think this is something, again, you need to do an online submission with declarations, so that will be valid for 1 year, because this is very, very critical, because many of the appointments would come through in the current period, and that where you need to submit a valid peer review certificate, probably you need to include all of this as a process. I think this is a very forthcoming from the peer review board to look at the challenges faced by the professional services firm, faced by the peer reviewers themselves. I think that is a very welcome change. Global scenario, the only difference between a global scenario and an Indian scenario has been that a disciplinary action is taken if there are deficiencies in the services of auditor, whereas in respect to the peer review board, by the peer review board, it has been more a recommendatory. There have been never a cases of any disciplinary action being taken, unless that firm has not actually complied or compromised with any of this action. Otherwise, there has been no instances by the peer review board taking any disciplinary actions. I'm not touching about this. Again, let me talk about the duties of the peer review board. Definitely it is to call for information from the practice units, call for information from the reviewers. There are changes. The peer review board has been very, very active in conducting trainings for the reviewers every year, so that the peer reviewers are up to date in terms of what are changing, what are the procedures, what are the expectations. There are questions in terms of, suppose some reviewers had gone to the practicing unit, has given their report, what happened, there are information which needs to be enhanced. I think that is something which the peer review board has to start looking at in terms of disseminating more, in terms of sharing the knowledge, rather than giving out what is the action that has been taken on the practicing unit. Either way, there has been differences. Orientation periodic training programs, prescribed procedures, maintain panel of reviewers. The peer review board is started looking at this. I think more than giving that the requirement of the peer review board, I think one of the asks which I always have with the peer review board is take away the selection of the peer review from the practicing unit. The moment you have a practicing unit, you give them an option to choose who should be the peer review. The objective of enhancing a quality just goes away. I think this is one sea change which I've been asking all the peer review chairmen to look at it, to see if you can take away. And I think the current chairman is very, very sympathetic towards this, and since started looking at it. Should this be handled by a panel of reviewers under the direct supervision by the peer review board? I think only when we start removing this conflict of interest of giving an option to the practicing unit to identify or select a practice peer reviewer, I think the day you remove it, the quality automatically will enhance. Also, from looking at the fee structure, again, one my ask to the peer review board, please do not look at that amount of 15,000 to a lakh. I think there is a need to enhance the amount to make it much more lucrative for all the reviewers, all the professionals to embrace being as a peer reviewer. So this is the second ask which I have for Daya. I think once we have all of these, I think probably we could see the enhancement in the quality. You can see there is sea change in the way the practicing units looks at it. Member firms, again, there I had mentioned about the level 1s, level 2, and level 3. Right now, the focus by the peer review has been only on level 1. The level 2 and level 3 has never been a focus, mainly because it's for the listed companies. And that's the reason why, whether it's a central statutory auditor, whether it's a private sector banks or a foreign banks or a public institutions, all of these have been subject to the peer review. So I think the time has come up where you should looking at beyond listed company and making the level 2 and level 3 also mandatory. Otherwise, you will only have central statutory auditors, listed companies, or any donation contribution more than 50 crores or a net worth more than 500 crores. Only those entities are being subjected to what is called a peer review. I think those firms have to start looking at and start looking for not only for listed companies, but for all other services. This is where Daya was alluding in terms of where the branches, the statutory internal control audit, systems audit, tax audit, or department review of branches of public sectors, private sectors, regional, rural banks, cooperative banks, NBFCs. I think this is where the focus should start coming up from the peer review boards trying to look at, because the option is either a practicing unit can voluntarily go and apply to the peer review board and get the firm subjected to peer review, or alternatively, the peer review board can select at random and then identify those firms which are conducting this. I think only when we start looking at these aspects of it, we can look at more in terms of enhancing the quality of all the firms. Again, let me tell you one thing. The objective of this is to only enhance quality. The objective of the peer review process is not to penalize anybody. I think that is where the distinction has to be done. Unfortunately, when a peer reviewer goes, he thinks that he has to look for observations saying that this is what it is. I think the whole objective of a peer review is something like looking at the files, helping the firm, giving them the guidance, giving them the way they should look at it and how they can improve it. Because the peer review mechanism also is that when you start giving a preliminary report, and if it is not satisfied, you can give an interim report process. I think then the peer review board gives them a matter of 6 months before these people can be subjected to a peer review. I think we need to start enforcing this. I think the day the peer review board and the peer reviewer emphasize and enhance the quality to improve the quality, the objective shall not be achieved. Level 3, again, it's an random basis. If you look at level 1, it's been 3 years. Level 2 is you can pick up once in 4 years. Level 3 is once in 5 years. As I said, it is only those companies which have been under listed, which are required by the CNAG or by the central statutory auditors, have been subjected to peer review. I think we need to start looking at level 2 and level 3. I think my recommendations and suggestions to they are to look at these aspects of it. Need is only a confirmation that the professional service firms are complying, because you get the Green Book of Professional Ethics, you get all of those books that you're complying to the institute regulations and all of this. I think this is something only to support you so that the quality of service rendered is utmost importance. Today we are surviving. Let me be very honest. All the professionals, all the chartered accountants are been surviving in this any challenging environment right from 1949 is only because of the highest quality of services. There will be challenges, there will be failures, but the quality of audit, the quality of questioning, the quality of delivery, the quality of rising to the occasion in respect of any of the requirement by any regulator, I think chartered accountants have played a greater role. I think that is which has made sure that the CAs still are respected. So I think if you have to further enhance, I think NEFRA is actually in a directions which are looking at it and touch upon as part of it. If you look at the process in which the whole of the peer review follows, we talked about the level 1s, level 2s, and level 3s. for identification of a practicing unit. But if you look at the stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, basically is between the process of empanelment, selection of a practice unit, to the planning by the peer reviewer, by the execution, and the reporting that follows. So the stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 basic predominantly is for the peer review process and the peer reviewer. In terms of the empanelment, for 10 years is a minimum requirement if you're looking at stage 3, but minimum is 15 years if you've got the experience of audit. My submission to the peer review board is that only those people who are involved in the audit for 15 years minimum should be given or should be empaneled. People who have retired in a bank, people who have retired from government services, people who have been in corporate and then come back and say, hey, listen, I've been there for 10 years, I've been there 15 years, I've got 25 years, I want to be nominated, empaneled under peer review. My ask to the peer review board, please do not give, because the knowledge what you possess in respect of the practice as a corporate is completely different than the manner in which you carry out an audit, because the process is completely different. The standards on auditing is only followed by the practicing unit. The standards on auditing is not followed by those corporate people who have not got exposed to the manner in which you do an audit. I think that my submission, if there is going to be any enhancement or dilution in terms of who are eligible, my ask to the chairman of peer review board, please exercise this part of the judgment. The selection of practice unit, again, the selection is voluntarily by the practice unit because they have got a lot of listed companies. So therefore, there's a voluntary submission made to the peer review board. I think one of the things which are very, very important, a lot of these questions are coming up. I've got a peer review certificate, it is valid, I've applied for it. My submission to all the practicing units, if you are expecting the certificate is going to expire, let's say in 2020, March 2020, you should have started applying sometime in the month of June 19 or September 19, by which time, because the maximum time that you've got to complete is 4 months, I think you should at least start by October or September, so that by the time the process is completed, you at least have a valid certificate in the month of February or March, so that you don't have to worry about having an extension. I think this is something which my ask to all the practicing units is to make sure that you apply in advance, at least 6 months before in advance. It is like taking a pollution certificate before at least a month, so that you get all of this done. This is a very critical ask. Do not wait till the last to get it, because there is always a challenge that if you do not have a valid peer review certificate, you may not be appointed as an auditor for a listed company. So I think this is something which is very, very important. Planning. Again, once the information goes to the practice unit that the unit either voluntarily or the peer review board has identified, there's a questionnaire that has been sent, and there's a suggestion of 3 names of the reviewers. And this is where my discomfort is. Even though I am empaneled with the peer reviewer, none of those people call me up and say, please take my name and please do peer review. I think this is where the independence or the conflict of interest should go. So I think this giving suggestion of 3 names should be out. It should be directly a person appointed and to the firm, and that should be given. But right now, the way it is a questionnaire given, the names of these reviewers given. The questionnaires have to be completed within 25 days from the time it has been sent. Within 15 days from the receipt of the letter, the panel and the practice unit should give the choice of the reviewer, and that should be done. I think this is where right now it's been process is done, and that's how it's been the peer review process been going through all of this. But just look at the aspect of it. Once you identify a peer reviewer, it is the responsibility of the practice unit to initiate the discussion with the peer reviewer. It is the responsibility of the practice unit to make sure all the information that is required to be reviewed by the peer reviewer. Again, what is the sample size? Suppose you've got various attestation functions. It could be a statutory audit, it could be a tax audit, it could be a certificate, you could have branches, you could have anything. The selection has to be done by the peer reviewer. The peer reviewer will then identify and give it in writing the number of informations that the list that he would want to do it. He has to make a visit to the practice unit. He can choose to visit the branches. He can do an on-site review. You cannot go beyond 7 days. So I think there is a 7 days mandatory, but minimum of a day he should be there on the site discussing with the practice unit. I think the responsibility as much is of the practice unit. It is also the responsibility of the peer reviewer to ensure that he completes within this time. The execution, as I said, the on-site review, many times you find that the documentation is there, documentation is not there, somebody is not well, somebody is available, is busy on other client. I think many a times what happens is there is always this discussions is to see the convenience of the practice unit to get the work done. I think instead of that, the practice unit should be ready, picture ready, to make sure that the information is given uphand, information is made available, get all the records. Either you can get all the records centrally to the main head office, or you can say, hey, listen, I have a challenge in moving the logistics. Probably you can review it, some in this head office, some at the branches. So therefore you could, the peer reviewer can look at it and can carry out the work. One of the most important things is the trust. I think the trust between the practice unit and the trust between the peer reviewer. To develop the trust, it's important that the practice unit identifies a designated partner or a point of view, or a person who could be the person who would be a point of contact, who could go and provide all the necessary information. Very important that if you provide the information to the accuracy, provide all the information to the peer reviewer, I think the process is much, much faster. Again, a peer reviewer can rely on what is called a controls approach or a substantive approach. Similar to doing an audit, the process followed by a reviewer is in the similar manner. He can adopt a control strategy or he can adopt a substantive strategy. Again, the key controls that he should look at it, which is very, very critical. Again, this comes from the standards on quality control. One standards is on the independence, maintenance of professional skills and standards, consultations, anything obtained, staff supervision, development, office administrations. All of these controls have to be reviewed by the peer reviewer. He has to look at it. He can look at some of the files. He can ask additional questions. He can look at documents which has been provided, or he can ask much beyond the documentation. Again, this documentation has to be provided on a timely basis. Therefore, the peer reviewer is in a position to complete. Again, based on the quality and the confidence provided, the presentation made to the peer reviewer can choose to do at random or select one files or select multiple files. He can select industry-wise, he can select area-wise, he can do even the category-wise, whether statutory audit, tax audit, concurrent audit, or any other audit. The review of records is either a compliance approach or a substantive approach. And a compliance approach, you can choose the audit record documentation, financial statement presentations, review and evaluation of systems of internal controls, substantive test, audit conclusion, audit report. All of this you can go through. You can go through one file to understand. You can understand the processes and come back with. So in a substantive approaches, if the controls are not reliant, then if you can go and check the work papers, look at all of these. Again, there is no second guessing. There cannot be a situation where the peer review should say, you could have done this. This is my opinion. You have not done this. I think there is no second guessing. The peer reviewer should adhere to the processes that has been given under the peer review manual, the processes that has been laid down. There is no second guessing. There is no judgment that the provision for doubtful debts should have been done, or you should have obtained external confirmation or a secondary confirmation. If the process is followed by the practicing unit, is in accordance to the standards of auditing, is in accordance to accounting standards, is in accordance with all the quality control standards issued by ICI and all other things, I think the peer review should accept. No second guessing, no opinions to be shared. Now, again, based on the discussions, based on the review, the peer review can issue a preliminary report. Unlike a quality review report, where the preliminary report is also shared with the quality review board, here in this case, the preliminary report is shared with the practicing units only, and they have to respond within 21 days. If no response comes through, then the question comes up, and an interim report can be submitted by the peer reviewer to the peer review board, and the peer review board can, depending upon the complexity, depending upon the nature of the observations can give an additional 6 months for the practicing units, again can subject that practicing units. You would really find, and I think I would want there to really give the time frame that is required. Now we are all talking about, there was mentioning saying that to get a peer review completed in 2 years, I think we need to shrink this to 3 months. I think unless we shrink this to 3 months mandatorily, we will not be able to achieve that. If you're getting a peer review for a period of 2 years, I think the energy is lost, the interest is lost both by the practice unit as well as by the peer review. And this is the biggest challenge, which if I were to talk to the peer reviewer, they might say, the practice unit is not supporting. If you go back to the practice unit, the practice unit might say, the peer reviewer is asking too many questions and I'm not able to provide it because I don't have people. I think this is where the systems and controls becomes very, very significant. Again, the process is 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, again, any report. Further, there are findings, then the peer review board again can subject that within a period of 12 months. So I'm not getting too specific, but just in the opinion that if there are non-compliance to auditing standards, non-compliance to accounting standards, non-compliance to any of the quality controls, the peer review mechanism can give instructions to this professional services firm or the practice unit to make sure they comply to all of these. At this moment, the rigor by the peer review board and to enforce on the practice unit is not much, because if I know there, I can go back to there because he's my central counsel. Bhai, jara dekh lana kuch to bhi, we can do it. I think we should start getting away from that. I think we should start enhancing the role which has been given and how to enhance the quality control systems within the firm. Not getting it, follow-up deficiency, again, they can go back in 12 months. This is a final report is submitted. Based upon it, if the peer reviewer is satisfied that all the observations, he can give some recommendation, give it. The peer review board will look at it, and within 1 month, they shall issue, based upon the discussions, can issue a certificate. Again, the obligation of the practice unit, it's the responsibility. It is the responsibility of the practice unit to provide all the information to the peer review. Under no circumstances you can say that the information was there, but the practice peer reviewer did not have time. No, this information was kept somewhere and therefore we are not able to provide. I think one of the requirement under the SQC that if you complete an audit, the assembly of a file should be within 60 days from the time you issue an audit report. So I think when you're selecting a year or a period, that you would have come after a number of years. So to say that I kept somewhere, to say that I've stored somewhere, to say these are not available, I think it's a challenge. Information which is not provided to the peer review during his stay on site itself means that information was not available. I think this is something which my ask and my suggestion to all the practice units is to make sure that you provide this information, provide the clarification when the peer reviewer is on site when he's reviewing all of it. I think this will help both the practice unit as well as a peer review to look at objectively, to look at constructively, to make sure that the information and the manner in which the process is completed on a timely basis. Obligations of the peer reviewer, we should, now again, one of the biggest challenges of the peer reviewer, he might, while the person whom he speaks as an assistant should have worked, there have been instances where the peer reviewer says, okay, fine, here's a peer reviewer, he might identify somebody, send somebody who's a chartered accountant, still gives a declaration of confidentiality. I think we have seen similar issues in the QRB. I think the QRB started looking at the name, started comparing it with the list of all the assistants as which was filed as a part of Form 18. I think more important that any declaration given by the peer reviewer, it should be by the person who has been working with you, no other person. The person should be only a chartered accountant, because only a chartered accountant can understand. He has gone through the rigor of that. Working papers is as much as critical. The peer reviewer shall not take any copies, any documents, any formats from the practice unit. Whatever information that is required by the peer reviewer, he shall create a working paper. Similar to the audit documentation that we have, similar documentation has to be made. A proper working papers have to be maintained. Tomorrow in need of any requirement of any observations or any questions raised by the peer review board, the peer reviewer should look in his work papers and provide this information. it should be also be ensured that there is no contradiction between the annexures and the questionnaires which have been provided. It's also important that the important observations being made on the practicing unit is factual. It is not arbitrary. It is not objective. I think these are something which it's also on the obligation of the peer reviewer. Peer review might be of a standing, but at the same time, you should also play a support role in terms of enhancing the quality of the practice unit. The peer review should not come and visit. You should not. And typically that if peer review says, no, I'm coming for something personal, can I be there? I think it's very important that you should respect the practice unit timings. You should look at the timings which are convenient to both the peer reviewer as well as the practice unit. It cannot be either at the convenience of the peer reviewer to say that, I've got a visit with my family, so therefore I want to do it. I think it's very important we get this done. Discuss the draft report. Important. All the points which are required has to be discussed. It is not a one-man ship. It is not about me to say that, I'm going to give more points. No. If there are points, please discuss in writing. The best way to do it is whatever points that you're discussing with the practice unit, take a signature. You say, these are your observations. This is what it take an acknowledgement. That way the discussions, or a minutes the discussions and get a final report in respect of it. I think that is something which is very important. Finally, on the billing, please help the peer reviewers. They've taken efforts. They have spent so much of time to come and do a review. Merely because they come up with an observation, please do not withhold their billings. Do not withhold their fees. I think this is something that is the reason why I've been asking the peer review board to move the billing, to move all the identification to the central peer review board itself, rather than giving to the practicing unit. Inherent limitations, as always, this is only to help. You cannot always find out the weaknesses in technical standards and the maintenance quality, but it always gives you an overview to see how do you enhance. My recommendation is, the stronger the person, the stronger the peer reviewer, the better is for the practice unit to enhance. But I do understand you also need a peer review certificate. If you have a stronger guy, probably may not get it. So I think we have to look at towards improving our own self to enhance the quality of our report and the quality of systems. Questionnaire, please make sure it is yes and no. As far as possible, give peer review questionnaire should be in detail, should describe internal controls, and all of this is very good. I'll tell you why this is very important. I do not know how many of us will be subjected. For example, 2020 is a year where the audit is going to be it will be done remotely. Now, this year also would be subjected to peer review. Now, it becomes very, very important for us that when we are doing an audit, because there are challenges in terms of whether we can't visit a client, we cannot go physically and do a verification, we do not have confirmation of balances. How did we do this? How did we carry out an audit? And if this is the year in which it gets selected, we should make sure whatever the changes that we have brought in internally, in terms of the systems, in terms of the quality controls, in terms of the review systems, in terms of enhanced documentations, please make sure you prepare a document pre-COVID, post-COVID, under the new COVID situation. What did you do? How did you identify all of this? This becomes very, very critical. So therefore, peer review questionnaire, when you're looking for this year, please make sure there are changes in the systems, and the systems how you are monitoring. Again, it's divided part A, part B, leadership responsibility, ethical responsibilities, acceptance. Again, all of these are governed by SQC. Please implement SQC, especially those firms which provide statutory audit services, review or attestations, or any of the certificates are mandatorily required to comply with standards on quality control 1. All what you see on leadership responsibility, ethical requirements, acceptance, continuance of client engagements, human resources, engagement performance monitoring is all as a part of it. As I said, the most important thing, if what you do not document, what you say the person was bad, you can give all of that you do not have trained resources, you don't get the best quality of people, you have to dependent, you have to do multiple things, you do everything. But if you have not documented the manner in which you have carried out an audit, if you have for any issues of certificates, that means as good as the work not done. So I think it's very, very important. Please sit down, please look at it, please explain, and even for the peer reviews, please help the practicing unit, explain what are the shortfalls in documentation, help them to improve on the documentation. All of these are very, very critical. It's only a value addition, which is very important. So therefore, the peer reviewer from their perspective should look at that. Benefits, definitely it will improve the confidence of the practicing unit themselves. It will also help the people who are employed with that practicing units to make sure that they enhance the quality, they enhance the manner in which documentation should be done. I'm not getting into significant advisories already touched. Training programs is very critical. Please, all the peer reviewers, please do not just mark attendance. Please attend the training programs which are conducted by the peer review. Every year they conduct, you make sure that your peer review empanelment is live. This is also very important. As much as the knowledge that you have, you also have to undergo the look at the peer review manuals for any of the updations. These are all hosted under wwica.org. And if you select for peer reviews, all of this gets listed. Peer reviewers, make sure you have an audit document in accordance with SA 230, written representation, obtain all written representations, agreeing to the terms of engagement similar to that you need to have, peer review certificate, all of this should be there. The only thing which is not there is a UDN certificate for this. There is no UDN certificate. All of these have to be covered in a period of 90 days. This is only the manner in which, if you do it in 90 days and cover within a period of 4 months, which is the time period by the time which is given, I think you would get the peer review certificate. My recommendations to all the practice units to make sure that you start the process early, at least 6 months early, even though the 3 months time is there. 6 months early, identify the peer reviewers, get it done in no time. This is again only a summary. I'm not going into it because I'll cover the other aspect of it. Again, very important as a peer review message. Together we build a constructive and honest community of chartered accountants. I think we need to be honest to our own self. We need to be honest in the terms which we are applying. We need to be honest in the way we are issuing a certificate. It is nobody to judge you. No one is there to judge you. It is your own honesty which makes huge difference. So this is as far as the peer reviews is concerned. So I thought I will do it. But the most important aspect, I know many of the people were asking me specifically to look at driving the new way. Peer review is a process. Please make sure you look at more closely. Make sure you develop the trust. Make sure you keep the records ready. Make sure that you have the confidence of the peer reviewers. Once that is done, on the job itself will determine what it is. I will take the question and answers in respect to peer review at the end. I will start looking at driving the new way. Is that fine, DC?
We'll do it that way, sir. Exactly. We'll take the questions in the end at one go.
All right. Thanks, DC, for confirmations. Driving the new way. I think somebody asked me, everybody talks COVID, new way of it. I said driving the new way. Today, for the past 2 months, everyone is on a lockdown. You have a car, you can't drive. You have a pathway, you can't drive. You got the clients, you can't go to the clients, but you need to drive because there is a requirement. SEBI, the government of India, has not extended the year so that there have been a lot of representation which was made by the industry to increase or extend the year from 31st March to 30 June. It was not accepted because of its own reasons, of fiscal reasons. The auditors wanted, there was an extension which was sought with SEBI. The SEBI gave up to 30th of June. Now, this is the new way. You don't know when will you step out. You do not know who is your enemy. You do not know the enemy, whether it's your voucher that you're testing. You do not know the transport that you're taking to reach to your client is your enemy. You do not know what you're doing is your enemy. The enemy is how do you deal with it. Trust me, doing an audit remotely is the greatest challenge. As much as doing an audit, taking a voucher, taking a sample, checking the voucher, testing the original documents, doing an audit, issuing a report, everything has changed. What has been in December 31st, if you're auditing December 31st, if you have done testing of impairment, if you have looked at profitability, if you had customers who have been very good, if you had suppliers who have been supplying, you had the dealers who have been taking your products, you had markets for your products, you had restaurants, you had malls, you had airports, you had real estates, you had all of these. You had airlines. Everything has changed. and you are still the auditors of that. You have a responsibility. The financial reporting has changed. The financial reporting is not the same. To say that whatever information provided by the audit, by the company, is not the same. Whatever procedure that you follow is not the same. Our approach is completely new. Our thought process is completely new. The manner, just imagine, 23rd to 31st, lockdown, nothing you can go, you're prohibited. Lot of areas, if you look at in India, are under the red zone, the containment zones. People can't come out. People cannot go out. People cannot carry records. People do not have any information. The clients with which we are going, they are under red zones. You do not know how to go there. The clients are not tech savvy. Some clients are tech savvy. Some clients are manual, maintain records on manual. How do you deal with this? A lot of you must be facing the challenges of doing a bank audit. You do not know that you might go to a bank, but the clients, the customers of that bank are not working. How do you do? How do you identify? The government is changing every day, every week, the manner in which moratorium is given for respect or deferment loans are given. There are some concessions given for the MSME. There are refunds given. The 20 lakh crores we talked about, I don't know how the 20 lakh crores comes about. Is it a refund that adds to your 20 lakh crores? Is it something which is your own system, which is due to MSME, it comes back to you? End of the day, every professional service firm is an auditor to every firm, whether it is an MSME or not an MSME, is an auditor. How do you deal with it? That becomes the new thing. So I'm going to talk about this new financial reporting. It's across, it is not India. There are loss of jobs, there are loss of demand. It is not going to be the new way, it is only existence. There are entities which have limited, suspended business operations, there are travel restrictions, there are quarantine measures. Management auditors face significant challenges. Management says they need to prepare and submit because they have an obligation to the board. They put pressure on the auditor saying, hey, listen, we have an obligation to the board, so therefore you adhere to it. Answer is, auditors should now start engaging with those charged with governance. If auditors do not speak up now, the auditors will be in a challenge. So therefore, it is important to say, somebody might say, what has the other auditor has done? In fact, one of the professionals who called me up and said, I told the client that unless he provides this, I will not give a certificate. The banker said, I'm only bothered about an end-use certificate. Go and get from any chartered accountant. And after that, I understand that another chartered accountant signed. I think the challenges there are, how do you ensure that you're complying to it? I think these are something questions should ask. Areas. Every area on your balance sheet, whether you are on an Ind AS or not an Ind AS, whether you are covered, whether you're listed, you're not listed, whether it is a private space or whether it's a public space, whether it's a mutual fund, whether it's an insurance company. Every line item of the balance sheet, every line item of the income statement is affected. Right from the time from the inventory, impairment, financial instrument, leases, revenue, provisions, going concern, post-balance sheet, income taxes, property planning and equipment, presentation, borrowing costs, termination of contracts. If you have seen, a lot of these force majeure conditions have been applied. A lot of these real estates, many companies have started re-looking at it, whether we need to have the real estate, because the new way of working is work from home or worry from home, whatever you call. This is a new way. Once you believe that the new way of working is going to be work from home, many of the companies like TCS, I said 75% of the workforce from up to 2025 will be only working from home. Just imagine them, workforce of 4 lakh people working, 75% will be working from home. Real estate is gone. So there will be contracts, terminations. You need to look at it. You have got a new standard called leases. The right to use of assets, the ROUs, which are coming in. How do you have to look at? So look at all of these. Every areas you need to start looking at, right from inventory measurement, biggest challenge. Inventory, so far you'll be looking at cost or fair market or fair market value, whichever is lower. Now look at it, the net realizable value, whichever is lower. The net realizable value or the net sales value, where do you get that? Markets is closed. So you have 31st March, April is closed, May is closed. You want clients to asking you to sign the balance sheet by 31st of May. How do you do it? There is no market. You've got inventories. There is obsolescence. You are not able to sell these inventories. The customers are not picked up. The customer says there's no transport, there's no freight, there's nothing, we cannot ship. How do you look at inventory? Is inventory, so somebody might say revenue. So is it bill and hold sales? What are the risks associated? All of these becomes very, very essential. So therefore, the new way of audit is just not applying audit checklist. It's not looking at the inventory. Last year we did this year also we did. This is going to be different. It is not a recession. It is a challenge which is pandemic, which has impacted all of the entities. It's impacted all of the people. The biggest challenge which is impacted is the cash. There is no cash. There is no, the turnover of the days outstanding has undergone significant change. Inventories are like the customers have said, we want to defer. The plant and people who have ordered for, let's say, plant and machinery, they said they've deferred. People who have ordered for IT enhancement, they have deferred. People who have given recruitments, they have cancelled. People are starting looking at reducing the number of people. People have deferred capital expenditure. All of these is going to have a significant impact when it comes to impact. So let me look at a couple of things. The significant impact of this pandemic is because of reduced movement of inventories, decline in selling prices. It is not only the selling price of the inventory that you have. You will have certain inventories which has been sold in the month of January, February, or the second week of March. Let's say your credit period term is 90 days. So that means from March, you go back to even the sales in the month of December. I say, listen, some customers can come back and tell you, I don't need this inventory because I'm not able to sell. I can have a sales returns. I can have inventories which are sitting in place. I've not even gone and identified, physically verified. I don't even know. So all of these challenges will have an impact on the net realizable value. So therefore, look at the write down more closely. Somebody asked a question in one of the forums saying that, should I give a disclosures? Leave alone disclosures. First, identify the existence of the inventory. Is the inventory at the value in the manner in which you have to sell? Let's say you've packed all of you have been in the consumer durables. Let's say you take electronics. You got all televisions which have been done. All these televisions have not moved for, let's say, 4 months. It's been lying at various godowns. It will be lying in C&F agents. It's been lying in some. You don't even know the condition of those inventory. Take cement, take fertilizers, take any inventories. Everything may have a shelf life. You do not even know the conditions. You might have seen in WhatsApp circulation saying that in malls, some of the malls in Malaysia, how there has been fungus formed on some of these products. Now you're going to sign an audit. You do not even know. So therefore, look at the guidances. The IC has been very, very forthcoming. The Accounting Standards Board, the Auditing Standards Board have been forthcoming in the manner in which you have to do a physical verification, in the manner in which you have to do an accounting. How do you test? I think that's become essential. Physical verification of inventory is essential. Now, there are ways of doing physical verification. I'll touch upon it. So therefore, it is essential that to look more closely now on March 31st, are there any written down value of inventories? Inventories and two aspects of it. One, the quality of the inventory. Two, the existing of the inventory. Three, the decline arising out of cross prices, which will have impact. Not only this, you need to also look at the fixed overhead allocations. Every time you have a situation where you keep adding the overheads allocations to the inventory, now you need to look at the standard productions, the budgeted productions, based on which you need to allocate. You cannot just allocate anything and everything on this. Look at the capacity utilizations, normal versus actuals. The client can come back to you and say, hey, listen, You understand our problem. Please do not add more problems to us. So therefore, please look at it much more sympathetically. Use being more empathetic. Now the same files gets picked up. NEFRA is now very active. NEFRA is called up and they released a document to all the audit firms saying that this is the manner in which you have to carry out an audit. This is the files that you should store. This is the electronic manner in which you do it. Now this files unfortunately gets picked up by the NEFRA. At that point in time, whatever you've been shown empathy, whatever you've been sympathetic is not going to well, saying that we were under COVID situation, therefore we had to be sympathetic to this. No one is going to take that during the time. So therefore it is essential as an auditor, be as firm. I'm not saying be rigid. Whatever information that has been provided by the company, challenge that. Challenge, when you say challenge based on facts and information. And who has to do it? Please do not provide this information to your lowest article or someone. It has to be led at a partner level. I think that is where you will add value. The client will understand, the client will appreciate, the communication will be. So therefore, the assessment of a write-down and a disclosure becomes essential in respect of inventory. Impairment of assets, two aspects of it. You're listed, you might look at from a market capitalizations. You're not listed, you might look at from something else through a cash flow mechanisms. Now, impairment of assets, you need to look at both from a perspective of the plant and machinery, which is your machinery that will put to use, or in respect of even the overall position of the ability of the company to carry out on a going concern basis. Or your intangible right that you have. You could have a mine, you could have a right to even produce certain medicines. So for anything that you have, if anything is impacted because based on the sales, based on the cash flows, each of these aspects gets impacted. So an impairment of an asset is very, very critical. So therefore, both at a goodwill and the intangibles, you need to look at it. You also need to look at, other than this, even the plant and machinery. That means the value in use. If you're not able to generate that, even a plant and machinery might have to be depreciated. Not only this, suppose you have subsidiaries, and because the subsidiaries have been loss-making and there has been a cessation of operations, there have been restrictions even to carry out the products. That also has an impact on goodwill, and therefore it is very, very essential that no longer you look at cash generating unit, you will not look at a level which is below the operating or at a level at the operating segment. You shall start looking at a product cycle. So therefore this becomes very, very essential. There are various assumptions that are used by the management. It could be assumptions, could as much can be a discount rate, it could risk-free rate return, it could be any other rate that is applied. So therefore it is very, very important. If you look at various reports issued, and not only this, again, it is very important that you're not looking at the company, at the management alone. Please look at various reports issued by various agencies, whether it is CRISIL, whether it is the Boston Consulting Group, whether it is any other McKinsey's, anyone, any or the Standard & Poor, each of them have talked about the growth at 1%. Even the World Bank has given, or IMF has given, a growth of the country at a low. If you look at segment-wise, there are segments which are in green, there are segments which are in amber, there are certain industry which are in red. Take the case of real estate. Surely it will come on the infrastructure or the real estate. I wouldn't say infrastructure, but the real estate. It could be in red. So therefore, if you are auditing some companies in this, probably there could be a potential issue of a write-down. Or some companies which are into real estates, or which are actually is an investment property that is given on rent. Now people are started looking at to see how much of the space they can vacate. And this is an ongoing which is going to happen, which will happen because people will start giving up spaces. You need to start looking at impairing that. So therefore it is very, very important. It is not alone at the company in which you're auditing. It is also about the country. It is also about the industry. Please look at various reports issued before you arrive at the factors that have been considered by the management. I'm not saying the management is not doing it, will be giving information which is not correct. I'm only saying is that if you are involved right from the beginning with the management at a senior level, these are some of the assumptions that you can challenge. There will be adverse impact in the generation of cash generating unit. Take, for example, there could be communications where the entity is not in a position to pay the salary to employees, or the employees have been told to get a salary cut of 40%, 50%, or 30%. That itself is an indicator where the impairment trigger starts. The moment there is a communications goes to the employees and say, listen, there will be a cut, there is not going to be increment, there's going to be nothing, and the management provides you a cash flow or a budget, forecasted budget, saying that we have a growth of 10%, we have growth of 5%, we have growth of this. These are called as contradictory evidence. Do not look at supporting evidence. Look now, as an auditor should look at contradictory evidence. No longer saying that I've got supporting evidence. No longer it's called corroborative evidence. It is called contradictory evidence. You should start looking at what contradicts. If the contradiction is that the employee salaries have been reduced, the suppliers' payments have been reduced, the receivables have, the customers have not been paying on time, there has been a delay or a revision or a moratorium which has been asked for an extension of a loan, is an indicator of the inability of the company to generate enough cash flow. That brings the question of testing for an impairment. That brings the question of whether the unit will continue as a going concern. What has been the management say, we already tested on 31st of December. This is the cycle that we use for testing of impairment, and therefore, please accept that. Whatever was there prior to March 23rd, whatever is today, a lot of things have undergone change. There is a lot of equations which have undergone change. Employees going forward, there is a challenge of many of the people losing jobs. The government is doing to enhance the liquidity, but that cannot be the case when you're doing an audit. So therefore, it is important that the impairment assumes significance. Financial instruments. Now, if you're in Ind AS regime, 109 is a very, very important thing. For example, if you're in a hedged situation, you have a cash flow hedge. A cash flow hedge is basically taken using a forecasted transaction. So therefore, because why does it do it? Because you have a currency risk, you have all of these. So therefore, you enter into a forecasted transaction with a bank at an agreed rate with a forecasted sales. Now, if you've got any of the month sales, there has been no revenues in the month of March, or there have been no sales in the month of April, there are no sales in the month of May, automatically the hedge will fail. So therefore, it is very important that you start looking this as close. Who can do this? This cannot be done at a junior level, and this has to be done at a senior level. So therefore, under financial instruments, look at impairment loss, fair value measurement, hedge accounting. Very, very critical. Now, the most important aspect, which if you were to look at some of the guidances, the frequently asked question issued by the accounting standards boards, it's in detail, about more than 63 pages of this thing. They've explained all of this. The expected credit loss. Now take this, for example, an expected credit loss, which is a requirement under the 109 in measurement, whether an asset is realizable or not. Now, we normally apply for sundry debtors. In a sundry debtor situations, it is again based on age, based on which this. The management says, please look at history. We have never got any losses. There has been a delay. So they use an ECL model of say 0.5, 0.25, 1% and arrive at it. Now the same thing is not applicable in the current scenario. If the entity in which you are operating is not in a position to sell further, is not able to generate income, similar should be dependent on the customer is also not in a position. So the liquidity of that customer is interdependent. So therefore your realization is dependent on the customer. What you had applied as an ECL model in the past will not be the ECL model which will apply in the current periods. And therefore, provision for doubtful debts, doubtful receivables, provision for any of the loans provision for any of the advances should be revisited. Investment impairment should be revisited, and therefore all the assumptions, all the informations have to be challenged as an auditor. As much as this for the entity, they should get. Now, one of the aspects of it, there could be firm commitments. There could be orders in the pipeline. Somebody, the customer might say, your client might come back, hey, listen, the customer has given this order. The customer has said he was going to take it. So there is no question of my receivables are going back. All you have to do it is, as much as you seek a confirmation of a balance from the customer, go for a selected part of those customers, get a written confirmation saying that they comply to the terms and conditions what has been agreed. There has been no change in any of the terms and conditions. I'm sure if you are able to get that pipeline what has been agreed, that is one evidence. You need to look at not only this, there could be contradictory evidence. So let's say you look at in some of the banks, NPAs, or some of these informations which are available on the site, you have various sites that provide information. Say there's entities A, B, and C, which is one of your clients, is operating at 20%, is not in a position to sell, they are into losses, then it directly impacts the receivables. And therefore, in this period, whether you have done a bank audit, whether you're doing a company's audit, these has to be looked at very, very closely. The standards, whether it's an investment on the AS13 or the Ind AS 109, or applying the fair value measurement of the Ind AS 113, you need to be challenging each of this. So the significant increase in credit risk is what is required under the ECL method. And I think you need to start assessing the risk of default, whether it is a trade receivables, loans given, investment. All of these you need to back up with documentation. Let me tell you one thing. It is no longer audit is saying that we have ticked 100%, verified 100%, therefore I have issued an audit. The answer is no. You need to look at each of the receivables. You need to get contradictory evidence in terms of, now the question is, how do I get confirmations? Now, the courier services are not available. Now, one of the, under the standards on auditing 505, you can send alternative, where you not have directly the monies are not received, send direct confirmation. Direct confirmation not received, look at subsequent receipts. So direct confirmation not received, subsequent receipts not done. How do you do it? You say you have to do an online audit. So therefore, you need to start looking at how are you going to send confirmation through information technology. Are you going to send from your own known risk-free? Are you going to send on Google? Are you going to send on any other medium? So therefore, the manner in which you send confirmation assumes significant importance. The information technology, the platform that you're using becomes significant. Therefore, these are some things which the audit firms should start looking at. Whenever the estimates goes, because two things which gets into very important. The estimates and judgments gets into the preparation of any financial statements. When you talk about estimates, you talk about provision for whether you're going to create a deferred tax asset, provision for doubtful debts, or a judgment. When do I recognize sales? Do I make it bill and hold sales? What is it? These are the information which are available based on what is provided to the client, what is externally available, and what are other information which are available in the market that can support. I think these becomes very, very important. This year's balance sheet, this year's disclosures will have more information than what has been in the past. Again, fair value measurement, as I talked about, credit spread, counterparty risk is very, very critical. The business is not usual. The risk that you have is not usual. The banks may have funds. The banks do not have ability to lend. They have to look at the quality of the customers. They have to look at the quality in which they're going to lend. That becomes very, very important. You may also have a situation where some of the investments which were shown as long-term non-current investments can become current investment. I've given you an example of cash flow hedge accounting, where a highly probable transaction can become ineffective because you've not complied to the forecasted transactions. And therefore, it becomes very, very essential. Leases. Please relook at the lease terms. You need to look at it whether there has been a modification to the lease terms, whether the customer or the lessee has gone back to the lessor and say, listen, I do not have money. I cannot pay you. I want concession. Is he giving you concession? Has he given you a deferment? You need to look at it. Or has he cancelled it? He says, I don't need. Please take my whole of the lease premises, I don't need anything because I don't have cash. Are there any force majeure clauses? So therefore, please send confirmations. Please look at the top customers, top suppliers. Send, are there any conditions which could impact the force majeure clauses? You might say every customers are going to say, take the best case. There are many companies like which has gone bust, whether it could be an airline industry, whether it could be a mutual fund, they've gone bust. So therefore, it becomes very, very critical. Imagine while Indigo said, because the government pressure, they paid the salary for the month of April. But they said in the month of May, they may not be in a position to pay. The best profitable companies can become the loss-making companies. Does it mean that we have be considerate? Does it mean that we have sympathetic empathy and all this? Is all you have to have empathy. You need to have sympathy. But you need to verify. You trust, but you need to verify. And therefore, this becomes very, very important. Onerous leases. The client might say, hey, listen, I don't care. This is an onerous contract. You have signed 11 months. You have to pay this irrespective whether you use it or not. So the onerous contracts become very, very critical. Revenue recognition. Revenue recognition is the biggest challenge. Revenue recognition, because of a standard of Ind AS 115, which changed with the controller over the asset, it also talked about the performance obligations. It also talked about the recoverability. Now, you might have a situation where there could be significant increase in returns. There could be increase in the volume discounts. There could be any price reduction. All of these could have an impact on revenue recognition. You might also have some customers come back. The client can come back to you, sir, actually I was ready. The goods were dispatched. I raised the invoice, but I could not dispatch because the transporters was not allowed. The government put was a lockdown. Sir, I can get your confirmation. Sir, if you want, I can talk to the person orally, can give you. You can send me a WhatsApp. Bill and hold sales. Please look at each of these areas more closely to see whether the terms, conditions, identification, the risk, the return, payment, everything has been complied with it. If it is not complied with it, is pure inventory. Not only this, look at the history of that such customers. Whether that such customers in the past were not regular. Such customers have been added new. So you have to not only look at bill and hold sales of the existing customers, if there are new customers who have been added. Look at the payment terms that they've done in the past. Is it the same? Now, if you look at all of these, then the consideration for recognition of revenue becomes very, very critical. And therefore, my ask to all the audit people who are auditing to make sure these are very, very important. Onerous contracts under Ind AS 37, please look at it. There are a lot of deliberations have to go, a lot of discussion has to go, all of the penalties imposed. You could have a lot of these government contracts where there are penalties. Now, any delays, you could have liquidated damages. Now, is the government sympathetic? Is a government company sympathetic? Government knows only one rule. You don't pay on time, I will apply liquidated damages. And I think these are something which you need to get confirmation. But the client might come back to you, sir, I'm dealing with government. The government will not give confirmation, and therefore, this is what it is. Contingent assets, insurance claims. Now, many of the companies says, our loss of profit for the shutdown, for the loss of profit, we are covered by insurance. Then the company says, please record this as income because we are covered, so therefore we want assist. Unless the insurance companies has accepted the claim, the challenge to recognize a contingent asset becomes difficult. Unless it is virtually certain, that means it's been accepted by the insurance companies, you cannot recognize this as an income. Period. There is no discussion on this because many companies will come back to say, we have filed with insurance, the surveyor has been appointed, they have done, and therefore we are getting it. Sir, if you want, I will get your confirmations. The confirmation should be from the insurance company accepting the claim, only then you can look at it. Future operating costs. Now, if you have seen, there have been casualties that has happened. A greatest example is a recent one in Vizag. Something which has happened closely in Tamil Nadu, near, I think, Coimbatore or Kadalur. Something which happened in Raipur. Something happened in Hyderabad. Now look at all of these. If certain companies are under shutdown, it is a continuous process plant, the cost to restart is very, very high. Has that been identified and made a provision? Or the ability to run the plant was at a different level today because of the government restrictions that you cannot operate more than 1/3 of the people. You cannot have people who are aged more than 50. You cannot have people who are symptomatic to any of this. You will not have, you have migrant people who are going out. You do not have laborers. There are labor contracts which have been cancelled. All of these requires cost to be ascertained, which is not documented anywhere. This is where you need to look at market information impacting the particular region as much as Setu app is in your lap, in your mobile phone to ascertain who are the people around. When you're doing an audit, should you not have all of this information? I think these are some things which you need to look at it. Going concern assessment, a very important plan. Whatever is the assessment done in the past, whatever is assessment which is done in the current are completely different. So therefore, you need to start looking at business development plans which of the future, which are realistic, supply chain management, production capacities, labor, ability to raise finance, all of these becomes very, very critical. So many companies could have land up with an observation on a going concern. Some companies which are profitable with a reduced margin may not have a going concern, but majority of the companies which are on what is called losses, majority of the companies do not have the ability to raise finance, majority of the companies are not in ability to get realization from the customers. You need to start looking at the going concern, and therefore the going concern SA 570 becomes very, very essential and critical. Please look at this more closely. The question is, sir, anyway for our balance sheet for 31st March 2020 is fine. Why do you need a going concern? Sir, anyway, we will see, we'll deal it in next year. Let me tell you, the Q1 results will be out next 2 months. So therefore, even this quarter is gone. Leave alone last March 31st, 2020, even this quarter is also gone. So it is not only impacted the last year, it is also impacted the current period. And therefore, you need to look at certain aspects. Certain companies are dependent on key suppliers. Certain companies are dependent on key customers. Those customers are not confirming. And you have majority of the sales. There has been a clarification from ICI saying that significant dependence on a one client is only a recommendation in nature, and therefore you should reduce it. Can you apply the same principle when you're auditing a company? The answer is no. Significant dependence on a key supplier and customer, and the key supplier and key customer are not going to support you. The natural tendency of this entity to continue as a going concern is always challenged, and therefore it becomes very, very essential for every auditor, every entity to look at it. When you do audit, it's the audit of business, which is a reflection gets converted into audit of financial statement. No longer audit of financial statements is audit of financial statement around the vouchers, around the computers, around the controls. It is beyond. So understanding of the industry becomes essential, and recoverability NRV assessment becomes very, very important. Deferred taxes. In a position where there are losses, general tendency leads to set up a deferred tax asset. Just take, for example, there is an impairment of asset. There is an inability to raise finance. There is an inability to generate. So you have a MAT that is created. You are not even in a position to realize this MAT. Then setting up a deferred tax assets becomes a challenge. Therefore, please look at very, very closer in respect. Property, plant and equipment, same thing. Useful life, residual value, accounting estimates, factors to be considered. All of these needs to be looked at. Somebody might come back to you and say, hey, listen, sir, we have not used this plant machinery, so we don't want to provide depreciation. The depreciation is provided either in the use or the time it has elapsed. Unless it is a unit of production, you need to start looking at it. It is both under the underutilized or on the over. I would only talk about underutilization, not the overutilization. Not only this, during the period you will have certain assets which are under constructions. So people will come back and say, sir, please, we need to construct we need to add this borrowing cost because it is beyond us. It is beyond. Any borrowing cost during the period of lockdown is an expense. You cannot capitalize it. Depreciation has to be provided during the period. There is no discussion. There are clarifications which have been issued by the ISA. Please comply. Breach of loan covenants. Very important. Please look at every agreement. As much as you have got your permanent audit file, start dusting this, open the file. If it is electronic safe, download those files and see if there are any major contracts that have been entered with suppliers, with any of the customers. Look at if there are any conditions which results into any uncertainty. Comparative information, you need to come up with a COVID-19 disclosures, which needs to look at it. Borrowing cost, I talked about, you have to suspend that interest borrowing capitalizations. Modification of termination contracts, various employee share benefits. So some companies can come back and say, actual valuations. Now, this is where you use a lot of these variables. Now, it could be a discount rate, it could be an attrition rate, it could be a salary increase rate. Now, if you've got people who are leaving, if you've got salaries going to be reduced, start looking at what information that has been provided. Actual valuation has to be done as at March 31st. It cannot be done anything beyond prior to that. So therefore, start looking at all of these. Expected effective tax rate. Look at what are the tax rate that have been utilized. There have been changes in rate in the month of August. There have been changes that are expected in the current period. Please look at it more closely. Management discussion and analysis. Please look at the SA 720 compliance. If any information is contrary or contradictory to the preparation of financial statements, please look at it and assess it. Let me take a couple of aspects in relation to how do you need to do audit. The foremost important thing is delivery of high quality audits. And this we cannot undermine. COVID, no COVID, we cannot undermine. Three things we have to do. One is audit of financial statements. Next is audit of internal control over financial reporting. And the third one is CARO. Somebody might say, sir, CARO 2020 has been deferred, so therefore we are fine. It is not the case. Because CARO 2020 start applying now itself. Because already the year has started. So if you start looking from this year itself, the end use, the asset capitalization, whether even the ratios, take the ratio, current ratio getting negative. Any ratios getting negative has an impact on the going concern. So therefore, start looking at the delivery of high quality audits. Now, let's look at two scenarios where you can physically go and audit, where you have an ability to go and access records, where you do not have ability to go and access records, you're going to audit through remote. Majority of the audit clients, you cannot go to physical. Even if you've gone to physical, it can at best go to the head office. You can't go to branches because there are no transport available. There are restrictions. Nothing is open. You will go and sit in head office. Some might say because of this social distancing, you also can't come. Only one person can come. Otherwise, we will provide you a laptop or we will provide you a system. The biggest challenge that we have there is the risk arising out of information technology. Whatever information have been provided to you, how do you know the data integrity has been ensured? How do you know that the information that has been provided is from that system? Unless you as an auditor had already looked at the internal control, had already tested the effectiveness of the IT environment, already the internal auditors were involved and there have been no deficiencies. Unless you are satisfied with that, how do you ensure that whatever information provided by the entity stands the test and for you to deliver a high quality audit? And these are the questions that one should ask. Do not say that, sir, you please do a video audit, sir, you do this. You have to have checks and balances. Just imagine, as much as safety that you impose, if any of your home member travels in an Uber or an Ola, where you say, please share the live location. For an audit of a physical variation of inventory, should you not have an location sharing? Just to ensure that the person has actually gone to that location and is actually positioned himself there, and you are able to view that the verification has been carried out. Many times, sir, we will show you on the WhatsApp, we will show you this. My recommendation for all the inventory valuation verification, as far as possible, get the physical verification done by a third party if you are not able to do, by an internal auditor if they are there, or any other person who are residing close by, with a direct instructions to them as to what process they have to go. You also have to assess their ability, capability, and all of that is irrespective of assessing the expert. Apart from that, ensure that you have taken adequate safety for the information technology also. Sharing of locations, ability to identify assets, asking the client to digitally record this thing and uploading it, or correlating in the past any verification that has been carried out, whether it's a perpetual inventory system or internal audit that carried out sometime in between, let's say February or January, and then doing a rollback or a roll forward. I think this becomes very, very essential. Look at some of the key aspects. Chairman, sir, it's gone up to 9. Can I extend for another 10-15 minutes?
Yes, you can. Please go ahead.
All right. So key aspects of it, I know it's a Friday. I know, thank God it's a Friday. I know it's a Friday night. I know a lot of people have done bank audits, but I think I want everyone who has done the bank audit to even think back, reflect back. And when you're going to issue a long form audit report, I think you would have completed a field audit. And when you start looking at it, have you assessed the risk of material misstatements? Now, when you carry out an audit, as much as you need to do acceptance and continuous of an engagement, you need to do planning, you need to identify risk of material misstatement, you need to arrive at materiality, you need to look at identifying the risk, testing the controls, carrying out operative effectiveness of controls, looking at substantive test, all of this. Whatever planning that you have done in the past, whatever internal audit procedure done in the past, all have to be revisited. Revisited not only from a client perspective, from an industry risk perspective. Which are the industry? Let's say you have audited hotels. Is that a risk? Let's say you have audited airlines. Is that a risk? Let's say you're auditing, let's say real estate. Is that a risk? Let's say you're auditing, let's say jewelry. Is that a risk? Let's say you're auditing any of the traders. Is that a risk? If you start answering all of this, the risk starts from engagement. The risk starts from material misstatements. The risk starts from inventory. The risk starts from the measurement in which you have to do it. The risk starts the environment. Look at all of these before you do. Sir, if I'll do all this, sir, I cannot issue a report. Now, there are two ways to it. Either you issue a report or you modify a report. There are only two things which is possible. Or ask for an extension to carry out this procedures. If you're not able to do, please do not issue an audit report. I think this is where, for all the listed companies, for all those companies which have got audit committees, it is a responsibility of the audit firm to engage with those charged with governance. When I say those charged with governance, are the board of directors, the audit committee chair. Explain to them, these are the problems. Get their information. Talk to the internal auditors. Talk to the management. Talk to the production guy. Talk to the payroll guy. Talk to the marketing guy. Talk to the business plan, the business development guy. Talk to everybody. Understand the business. Look at the information that has been displayed about the industry. Look at all the reports so far that have been issued. Don't just only look at TikTok videos, boss. When you do audit, look at this. Unless somebody can make a TikTok video on all of these audit plans, I think probably we will not show that interest. But I think this is essential for all of us to start looking at. Start looking at SA 540 in terms of auditing accounting estimates. Everything is not normal. Look at SA 501. This audit evidence on SA 501 is specific to inventory verifications, because your considerations for specific, otherwise what you would have done, you would have carried out on 31st March and said, some clients can come back to you and say, sir, anyway, we are closed down, sir, March 23rd. You carry out today, sir, nothing has started, sir, we are only operating 30%. You take that 23rd and please sign it, sir. Nothing has changed. Please do not accept. If you have not carried out inventory verification, please do not accept. If the amount is significant, please modify the report. If the amounts are not significant, or if you have got alternate procedures, insist that you carry out the alternative procedures, get it done. Subsequent reviews become significant, going concern, all of this I'll talk about. Most important thing for you to look at it. Significant drop in demand, contractual non-compliance, liquidity capital issues, asset valuations. All of these are very, very critical. Auditors shall discuss with audit committee. I talked about engagement risks, you need to reassess, audit material, you have to look at it. Now, remain agile. Do not satisfy yourself. Do not say that managing director has told us, so therefore you find, because the managing director has told, because he's the person who's got knowledge. No. Challenge him with contradictory evidence. He says, sir, exactly understand. However, these are the information that is available. How are you going to do it? The managing director says, I think you're asking too many questions. You don't have trust. I think, this is not the way. We will look at other audit. It's better to step down as an auditor than do an audit. But if you, before stepping down as an auditor, it's also important that you comply to the institute regulations in terms of what are the things. If you think there is something material misstatements or the risk is very high, whether you continue or not, or you're going to give it to any of this thing, please provide the significant information to the incumbent auditor. Plan. Write audit risks. Because you're going to give IFC report, internal financial control, irrespective whether you are a listed company or unlisted company, the audit report on internal financial control is essential. If it is an IT control, now, sir, your IT team has done controls, please give us a report. Answer is no. The IT controls would have undergone change between the lockdown period. The lockdown period is between the period, they would say, biometric access. How do you record attendance, sir? I have got biometric access. Now with this COVID, you can't even shake hands. Leave away a thumb. They say, sir, no biometrics, sir, we have removed biometric. How do you do it? Sir, we maintain in Excel. How do you maintain Excel? Sir, we have a mechanism to look at everybody logging in the system. How do you, sir? We have taken from it. These are called controls which have undergone change. When these controls have undergone change, and you are going to certify the effectiveness on 31st March, which is your reporting date, should you not revisit all of these areas? And I think this is where the evaluation of all controls, all processes, irrespective which has been operating effectively prior to COVID environment, has to be revisited, retested, and an opinion. If there are deficiencies noted, and if these deficiencies are not remediated, then it shall figure in the audit report, and therefore it is important. The other aspect, sir, you cannot come, I will give you documents, we will scan document and send you across. Now the scanning documents in the earlier period, who is to do it? It is to be done by the lowest staff, which is your peon or your office staff, anybody. Now for the scanned documents, how do you know these are from the original documents? Many of the frauds that happens in India is only because of IT environment, is only because of related party transactions, is predominantly because override of controls. Now, you do not even know the information provided as actually the IT environment is appropriate or not. Now, for the scanning document, similar process you need to do. Who is the owner? Who is the reviewer? From where are the documents taken? What are the information? If need be, you cannot go to a client. Ask the client to provide you a particular place. The client might say, sir, sorry, sir, this is very confidential, sir, we cannot go. No problem. Have the scanned document. Look at the authenticity of the stock document. Ask them to share, let them draft it, let them share it either on a Zoom or if say Zoom is not reliable, look at any of the other environment with the BlueJeans or Skype or any other WebEx, look at that document. After that, you still are not confident, ask them to send a copy to you. So therefore, whatever they are showing to you, please make sure all of these, through all these controls have been, after confirming the reliability, authenticity, that is what you need to do. Please do not rely merely because the client has sent over, sir, I've sent you everything by mail, sir. If this mail has not been signed off by the CFO, has not been signed off by the controller, please do not accept just merely because we have shared our person is done. All of these documents, whichever scan document has to be initialed by these people, only the maker checker exercise controls are done. then only you can accept the scanned document. Again, scanned documents are not a direct evidence. Still, the evidence should be, after the lockdown opens, you might still go through it, or you could ask the client to provide you that information to your home or the nearest location where any of your staff is residing. Financial implications, contractual penalty, onerous contract, employee terminations, valuation. Please look at everything. Please look at every emails that have been exchanged, has been sent by the CEO, by this thing, both to the suppliers, to the customers, to the employees. Look at all of these to see if there are any impacts. Inventory verification, I talked a lot. You need to look at rollback procedures. Please do not, if you are not in a position to do a inventory verification, detailed guidance have been issued 2 days ago by the ICI. Please look at all of this, comply to it. Consolidated financial statement. Now, look at this. If you're auditing not only the parent company, you're also going to issue a consolidated financial statement. As much as assessment that you do for the parent holding company, you shall do a similar assessment even for the subsidiary or the component audits. So you shall, if you, wherever you're sending any group referral instructions, you shall be providing the updated risk assessment, updated materiality, updated COVID checklist, updated all of this, and ask the component auditor to carry out. The component auditor can't just give a report saying that I've audited, said everything is done. If the component auditor has given any qualification, any modifications, please take straight into your audit report and do it. Please don't say, sir, at a group level, we have looked at it, sir, it is not material. No. Under COVID situation, you have no information. You have not gone physically. You do not have information. The component auditor is qualified. If that is there, exactly, you need to start qualifying it. I think you need to assess it. Your discussion as much is with the management, the discussion with the component auditors and the team. So you need to educate the company. I'm not saying the company's, the qualification is or a modification is only the answer. No, I'm saying it that you cannot use materiality or a judgment sitting today under a COVID situation and say, hey, listen, overall nothing will happen here. Everything is fine. No, the answer is no. You shall look at that and express an opinion. Factors to be considered that are shared cross data. No, there are some cross-border issues. Suppose some subsidiaries are outside of India. There are data confidentiality issues. Let's say UK laws are very, very stringent. So you need to start looking at it. You need to start looking at how the information is said. Do they have a central server? Or you can directly access their server system. You test the control surrounding the server and get that information. Therefore, it becomes very important. Do you trust the component audit? Have you done any prior visit? What is your comfort zone? All of these need to be looked at it when you're looking at factors with the component auditors. Impact arising of subsequent events. Very important is subsequent is your going concern. Look at anything at adjustments. You need to look at it. Look at the procedures. Going concern, I talked about it. Liquidity, going status. Look at impact on customers, suppliers, and employees. Very, very critical. Discuss with those charged with get governance gets their understanding. Management experts. Very convenient is to get a management expert. Some person will say, okay, fine, sir, I will issue a report. Now, management expert could be a legal expert. Management expert could be anybody in a mining or anybody who could be giving us a most important thing when you're estimating, or even somebody says giving a fair value. Please go back and reassess his capabilities. At this point in time, it is not business as usual. As much as the valuation expert is required to be governed, which has been deferred for so long by the institute or by the government because of the mandatory not being there, I think it's very important to assess their competence, assess their capabilities, assess the objectivity, challenge each of the estimates, challenge each of the aspects when you're looking at that. Auditor's opinion, please do not copy paste your auditor's opinion. You need to assess the high probability of going concern. You need to enhance the professional skepticism. No one is a friend. Friend is a good person only after the audit. As far as you are concerned, you are a professional. The client is a client. You may be very close. I think professional skepticism is very, very essential. Wherever you're not able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, very important that you need to start modifying your report. Key audit matters. Key audit matter is not the same. Whatever key audit matter that you're given in the last year is not the same in the current year. Whatever key audit matter that you've discussed till December for a listed is not the same. Please go back and reassess your risk of middle misstatements, look at significant risk, look at the judgments, look at items, and see if it impacts key audit matter or critical audit matter which is used elsewhere. And if you need to adjust it, please look at all of this. Risk of fraud, very important. What happens is general tendency, because to meet the bank limits or to meet any of the customers' findings or to have the current ratios, there is general tendencies to readjust current assets, current liabilities, general tendencies to put inventory high level, just general tendency to show provision for doubtful debts at a lower level. Look at that from a fraud perspective also and have seen an impact. I talked about internal controls, very, very important. Planned audit response is very, very important. All this will undergo change. Look at if there are any scope limitations, please bring it out as part of the process. These are very, very essential as part of it. What are the things that you can obtain through remote access? Some of things which are listed property, plant and equipment, fixed assets, inventory, aging report, accounts receivables, you can work through remotely you can secure it, or make sure all information that you're securing remotely are secured. That means when I say IT secured, all make sure it is not hit by any cyber attacks. You have necessary precautions taken for all of this. A cash and cash equivalent sample confirmation request, all of this. I talked about it. Written representations, please do not cut, copy and paste. Written representations now have to be exhaustive. Every line item, every change in audit procedure, every maker and check, every change in internal controls have to be looked at it. In conclusion, there should be increased level of scrutiny, need significant modification to address the present challenges, high degree of skepticism. You cannot compromise on quality. And most important for you to be successful, secure access to data. Very important. Take every snapshot, screenshots of all this. Bandwidth. Somebody can't say, sir, I used my bandwidth was poor. I only listen. No. Make sure your bandwidth. You need to pay extra money. Take the extra money. Get it. Have somebody who's technological literate. Do not do it saying that, sir, I don't need. I only need the hard copies. I can look at it. Communication. Get to the new style. Skype. You look at YouTube. Look at various things. Use analytical forensic tools. I'm telling you, there is a lot of things which are available on Microsoft tools. Start using these. These are very, very important. Be tech savvy. Now, COVID or no COVID, this is going to be the new life. E-audits are going to stay. We need to start looking at e-audits. As much as the chairman talked about that the INOX raised an issue of the OTT platform, now that is going to be the new way. No longer people are going to go to theaters, people are not going to show up on the tourism, they're not going to go for restaurants, they're not going to buy, go to malls. All will take time. But business has to change. The business will make amends. And you need to be tech savvy in all of these. Just imagine some of the hotels, 5-star hotels, I don't know whether in Chennai, in Hyderabad, they've started what is called as directly delivery to all the people. 5-star hotels serving to people at reduced cost. That is your new business model because they want to employ all the chefs. Most important thing, you must be the change you wish to see. It is not COVID. It is not anything else. This is so relevant. Mahatma Gandhi talked about the change then when he was talking about to bring the freedom. Now look at it. Let's free ourselves. Let's free ourselves. No one is powerful. Let me be very clear. No one is top. No one is big. No one is MNC. No one. Everyone can crumble if you do not adapt to change. If you do not change, perish is the only word. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would now take any question that comes through. Over to you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. It was an excellent presentation. In fact, we have taken people's family time, we have taken people's dinner time, but I think people who have been sticking with us, they'll know that it was worth all the time. And there have been thin viewers maybe because of the evening, but I'm very sure people will tomorrow go back, and I'm very sure that this will benefit all the people who are going to see it in the near future. We'll take the questions quickly. Few are for
Sure.
Dayan, few for you. The first one starts with you. Yeah, Daya sir, you want to add anything? Sir, your audio is not coming there, sir. I think you'll have to log out and log in again, maybe. You'll have to log out and log in again. So till the time I will take one question. The concept of auditor being a watchdog but not a bloodhound has been done away, and now the expectation of stakeholders is that an auditor has to be an investigator doing a forensic audit, even though it is a normal audit actually.
I fully agree to Vijay Kumar's question. Absolutely right. NEFRA thinks, because there are a lot of questions on NEFRA thinks that auditor has to find out fraud. I'm not even talking about fraud. I'm saying know your client, know the industry in which you're auditing, know the risk of the industry before looking at the documents itself, because we are all used to this, 100% moching. I'm saying audit, what you do is historical. If you do not know business, if you do not know risk surrounding it, what audit do we carry? If we do not understand the entity's operations, we don't understand the environment in which they're recording, what audit are we carrying? So I think it is not forensic. It is the change in mindset, the manner in which we do audit. Audit is getting contradictory evidence, not corroborative and direct evidence. That's the only change that which bring the change in our.
Yeah, Daya sir, you can unmute yourself and speak, please. Sir, you are able to hear us? You are able to hear us? You will have to unmute your mic. Your mic is in mute actually. No, sir, your mic is in mute. Abhishek, can you just connect him over phone because his mic is on mute?
I will do that.
Yeah.
It is on mute in the app, sir.
Now it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Daya sir, yes.
So, Ganesh, just to answer your question, because I heard the presentation as I promised that I'm going to stay till last. One thing which you have really rightly pointed out with regards to the selection option which has been given to the practice unit in the peer review. We are hoping that in the new peer review statement, we are actually introducing the concept of new software which is called Prism, which has been accepted across the globe. So what is going to happen is one side we are actually talking about taking the confirmation from the peer reviewers whether they wish to continue or not, so that they don't reject when we go to them. Number two, the system which we are going to implement soon is going to throw randomly. It will not be a choice of board also. It is just going to throw randomly. It is a very globally accepted system which we are introducing. So it's going to throw randomly the name of 3 peer reviewers, for which what we are going to do from the board point of view is, hopefully if everything goes well, we are going to go back to this 3 random picked up reviewers. We are going to take as a board confirmation from that they are interested to do it, and then only we are going to give it back to the practice unit, so that there is no choice of things where someone is saying that I don't want to do, I want to do. This all confusion is going to just get away. And part number 2 with.
They are my only submission. Take away the right to select from the practice. Take away. If you want to enhance a quality, conflict of interest will be there.
Yeah,
take away
so
that.
I recommended the same thing, that the peer review board will only give you one name, but the democracy lies in India in a larger way than anything. So the point is, we have to understand the importance, and more importantly, once this peer review thought process goes constructively in the minds of people and they start accepting it, adopting it, whoever comes to them and does the review, doesn't matter them. That should be the kind of frame of mind we need to get into. So initially, we are going to go for a random pickup rather than, as you rightly said, you are empaneled as a peer reviewer and you have never got it. And similar is couple of questions I have seen from Sunil Borodia ji and all, that they also have been empaneled as a peer reviewer, but they have not got peer reviews. So one assurance which I can give you is, it's going to be a different peer review board in next 2 to 3 months. And with regards to fees you are talking about, one thing is, there is some technical issue which is there where the peer review board cannot take the fees. We have taken a legal opinion. So what we are going to do is we are going to follow a concept of two-way declaration. Once it is completed, how it is going to be, and there is a process which we are setting. If that get approved, I think that is also going to get implemented in this division itself. So it's not going to be too far. I think let us, flying on 48,000 feet or 36,000 feet. Let us. I took it to 48,000, but might be the expectation are we have to be on 36,000 because it is just a start. So let us accept that. And I think the motivation we need to give, as you rightly said multiple times in your session, that peer review is not a policing activity, and I'm really thankful to you that you created that kind of environment and thought process in people's mind, and your speech might have given a lot of motivation to people to really think on getting themselves peer reviewed. And more importantly, rather than compromising, I think whom we are going to lie ultimately ourselves. If that is something which we understand and try to see the best, the toughest peer reviewer has been appointed, it's going to be a real growth oriented approach rather than a day where we get only a certificate of peer review. And there are a couple of questions which we can take it, but
Yeah.
Ganesh bhai ko jawab dena zaruri tha kyunki he is big brother, and I know he's been talking to me on a continuous basis, so I thought I'll just step in and first answer his questions.
Yeah, we have a regional council members comments that post COVID-19 we need reviewing the performance to catch up with the new normal situation. Yes, we have to. The next question is please share details about NFRA requirements for sharing audit files.
Okay, so now NFRA has released one paper to all the audit firms to come up with their suggestions. Please download from NEFRA thing, which is there, which is available. It is talked about, everything has to be done in a particular electronic way only. Nothing will be accepted manual. So therefore, there is a list of the people, the clients that should be covered, and an annexure in the number of people, the clients handle, audit sign, then all of the documents should be in that particular, whatever be your own methodology. What it says is that whatever NEFRA is defined, you shall be providing in that only. And the way NEFRA will do, today at least in QRB or in peer review, you have somebody coming and doing. There, it will be, you will not be called, you will be supplied, you will give the documents, they will do offsite, send you the report. You won't even have a chance to explain anything. You can't say, sir, actually I done, sir, but somebody has not been. No. What you have not provided is not done. So I'm saying NEFRA is a different animal to deal with, which we have to deal it separately. But I'm saying leave NEFRA or no NEFRA, COVID or no COVID. Can't we for ourselves, if we are professional, we have taken so much of trouble to pass the exam only once, and we can do it. Can't we exercise that additional responsibility to ensure that there will be failures? Let me be very honest. Failures happens, accidents happens. You might have relied on certain judgments on an estimation. I might say a receivable is good. Some example came on a state government. I'll say all dues from state government is not doubtful debts. अरे पैसा ही पे नहीं कर रहा है यार, liquidity तो गया उधर. Should I not start making provision? No, sir. From state government dues, they will not give you confirmation, but amount will come. Sir, in history, we have never got any of this. Now, when you have such situations, start providing for it. Start making provision even on state government. Because you need to have provision. You can't say government is secured, government will pay. No government has got money, boss. Today, in today's world, in today's situation, no government has money. There is no GST. Even the GST practitioners are waiting when they'll start. If I give the treasurer, the secretary will start, sir, that is what I'm waiting, sir, to advise my client, you'll say. But I'm just saying there is no money. So when the state governments don't have money because of GST collections, where is the question of having this? Recovering your receivables. Start making provision. I think we need, see, I also understand CFOs have their own challenge, but we have to get it done. Can we just run the question, because I know a lot of people will.
Yeah. PR is a review of the assurance services of a PU, but not on non-assurance services of the PU. However, paras 2D and E of the annexure 1 to the final report requires reporting on taxation engagements also.
This is more determined on the absolutely, because when you talk about taxation engagements, you also talk about if you're doing tax audits, if you're doing any other representative. See, this all will bring about your conflict of engagements. So what do you do? See, this is a very simple thing. You say, I do tax audit. There also you say, I'll prepare tax return. There also you say, you go and represent. There also you go and attend. There also you go and represent everything. Conflict of interest started from here. You're issued a certificate, you're doing all the services. And that is the reason why this information should be captured. Unless you capture this information, you won't even know whether there is a conflict or not.
Also on the tax review board, which is coming up, it's in pipeline, I think.
Yeah,
So-
quality review.
What if the PU is not willing to share the client list with ICI?
This
Yes, if you don't share, you don't get the peer review certificate. You don't get the peer review certificate, you don't get the audit. As simple as that. It's all interlinked.
Can we trust the supporting details sent by client if they are fabricated? What is the responsibility as auditors?
To be honest, this is the risk. This is absolutely the risk. We are sitting, that's why I said, if you have not done any controls testing, and if you have not done any work prior to the year end, then you cannot rely. That is the reason I said documents has to be signed by CFO, by the control. I said even for a scan document, have a standard operating procedure of maker checker. You need to have that. Even for inventory verification, I said get the similar, what is called share that whatever with live location. These are all your evidence, beyond which you can't do anything. I mean, if I have intention to fraud you, defraud you, or give you information which is not truthful, I cannot do anything.
I think, Chairman, what we can do is we can take these questions.
There are very few only, sir. Close it. There are only 4 or 5. We'll quickly take.
I am unable to hear you. I'm sorry.
Audit online in lockdown.
Deferred.
Ganesh bhai,
Deferred. This is deferred. Peer review audit is done deferred. There's no online.
yeah, there is no online, but just wait for a couple of days again, 2 to 3 months. Peer review, entire documentation is going to be online and everything has to be uploaded, and then only it will move forward. So let's.
One of the common observations we hear as insolvency professionals is that the auditors have not done the audit properly, and in some cases, RPs or liquidators have filed cases against them in NCLTs.
This is true. This is true in even, that's what I'm saying. There's already started. There's already started. So I think, what we have to start looking at it is, because audit CS themselves become NCLT professionals, boss. That's an unfortunate thing. So it is all both ways.
So it also is an indirect way of peer reviewing, Ganesh. So
Yeah, exactly.
better you get yourself peer reviewed before.
The argument of the client that nothing negative has happened till March end. Further, the customers are state government companies. If you don't make additional question, I think you answer.
I looked at the question only. I told state government doesn't have money.
Can a PU suo motu apply for peer
Yes,
review?
very much.
Yes.
Tax audits are part of assurance services that form part of the sample in PR, but not tax engagements. Then how to report on tax engagements?
No, that's an information which is provided. So therefore, the peer reviewer can select an audit, especially if it's only on assurance. He can select an audit, but when he's reviewing the control systems policy of the practice unit, probably he can look at how they are doing it. It's more from an understanding perspective.
Yeah, I think we have taken almost all the questions. Daya sir, if you want to add something, Devraj Reddy sir could not join because he had something urgent coming up, so he had to kind of handle it. Daya sir, you want to add anything? I think he's lost.
Daya sir, do you want to add any points? The chairman is asking if you'd like to add any points.
No. Everything has been covered by Ganesh very well, fantastic presentation, Ganesh. I've got couple of messages from Dubai, and senior most partner of Deloitte's Dubai has sent me a message that he's not gone for his leaving of Rosa, and he's been listening to you continuously. And I think that is the biggest credit you can actually take today evening when you get this kind of compliment. It's fantastic. So amazing. I think I don't have anything more than this to say. A senior partner who's been on the national and international, not national, again a chartered accountant from Hyderabad who's gone to US. Then he's the head of Dubai. He's a managing partner of Deloitte's Dubai. Has sent me that message. So compliments to you.
In fact, there are people mistook the topic, the peer review separate and driving the new way of audit separate. They thought it's more relating to peer review. But as Ganesh already said, peer review, whether you are doing it or not, but you must know how to kind of present yourself better or do the audit, in a better way so that tomorrow nobody points any fingers at you. Abhishek, over to you for a well-deserved vote of thanks for our past president, Daya sir, as well as Ganesh.
Thank you, Chairman. I have to, if I could give a standing ovation, I would definitely do that. CA Ganesh Balakrishnan gave a really wonderful presentation. It was spellbinding, and he was able to take us through so many aspects, not only the peer review, especially the end, where he touched upon all the various audit approaches that you have to consider now, given the entire coronavirus and the going concern issues and other issues that come up because of it. Really, I think that is simply the threadbare analysis of it in such a short time, because I don't think ever since Corona happened much time has elapsed, but he was able to give such a wonderful analysis. I think this.
No, Abhishek, Karuna is tiny, which you can't even measure. Probably only Rashid can do it because he does left and right.
So I think we'll stop signing audit reports like that now, sir. So I think it was.
You should not. I'm telling you, to all the professionals, there are no friends. There are no friends when you are in trouble. Everybody will be your enemies, right? If I do wrong, I will have all three of you as my enemy. I am saying you have to be enemy to yourself. Then only you all three become my friend. That's how you need to be.
I think well said, sir. And, we do. There is definitely a responsibility on us to uphold that integrity, uphold that independence, and uphold our ICAI and the good name that it has. So, on that note, I thank CA Ganesh Balakrishnan sir for taking such a wonderful presentation. I thank the chairman of the peer review board and our central council member, the beloved CA Dayanivas Sharma, very dynamic, and he gave a lot of inputs. Both at the start of the program and at the end of the program when it came to question and answers. So thank you so much, Dayaji, especially considering you had celebrations at your home outside your door, but despite that, you have stayed through this entire festivities to spend your time with us. So thank you.
That was a commitment to Ganesh Bhai, so I had to follow it.
Thanks.
No,
Thanks.
Abhishek, Daya sir ensured there is a double celebration.
I don't know, DC,
And,
words I am not able to hear anything. But whatever he's saying, I'm
you
just
can see the recording later,
because
sir.
he's
You
smiling.
can listen to the recording later.
of course, finally, I'd like to thank our dynamic chairman who's organizing these programs. We are on a constant discussion every day, and he is constantly coming up with suggestions. And this program was definitely a product of that. So thank you, dynamic chairman, and once again, thank you all the viewers for tuning in today. Stay home, stay safe, and have a good weekend.
Thank you so much.
We'll be uploading the presentation in an hour's time. Thank you, all of you. Ganesh sir, you want to add something? Ganesh sir?
I say stay home, stay safe, do audit as your responsibility, and nobody will come to your rescue. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.